be pushing their way further eastwards as we go through the early hours. Temperatures, though, holding up in the mid-teens Celsius, so a fairly warm night for many of us. So some early morning sunshine for some favoured eastern areas, particularly East Anglia on Tuesday morning, but for most of us it's going to be a fairly cloudy day. Not as unsettled as it has been of late, but nonetheless there will be some showers around, some longer spells of rain for western Scotland and northwest England, but the showers are not as intense as they have been of late, and some southern and eastern areas will stay generally dry, albeit fairly cloudy, and in any brightness it should feel pretty warm with temperatures into the mid-20s.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lioness's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Monday. It is Monday today, isn't it? It's Monday the 21st of June.
July, even.
July. You know what? We're getting ahead of ourselves already, or maybe behind ourselves. But my name's Tom Harwood.
And mine's Emily Carver. We got that right. We got that right.
That Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years.
Yes, Nigel Farage talks tough on crime. The Reform Party will end the early release of sex offenders and violent criminals, build 30,000 new prison spaces, and even send some of the worst offenders to prisons in El Salvador. While Farage claims his plans will see crime slashed in half. But how realistic is it, and how will it be paid for?
Elsewhere, a new poll claims that Labour's plans to create an official definition of Islamophobia would hand Reform a 100-seat majority at the next election. This comes amid fears the definition could prevent politicians speaking up about Pakistani grooming gangs.
And as the government continues to struggle to get a grip on illegal immigration, could they be taking inspiration from Greece? Yes, that country's new immigration minister has told any wannabe illegal immigrant not to come, warning they'll either be deported or put in prison.
Elsewhere, England's Lionesses will quit taking the knee as player Jess Carter reveals she's received racist abuse on social media throughout the Euros. They say they need to find another way to tackle racism in the sport.
People need to be held accountable for their actions, whether it's in person or online. The abuse is not okay, racism is not okay. I think more can be done in more.
And the government have announced a review into the state pension age. This as experts warn workers retiring in 2050 will be £800 a year worse off than today's pensioners. Would you support a rise in the state pension age?
So, Tom, what do you reckon about the idea of sending our most serious offenders off to El Salvador?
Well, it's a bold strategy. It's something that has received plaudits in the United States because Donald Trump has done the same, although there's also been a lot of criticism for Trump doing this because there's been question marks over whether or not it has been actual gang members that have been sent. Some people who just happen to have tattoos have been accused of being sent.
So I think there was one case, definitely, that was high profile, wasn't there?
But it is, I mean, a really... It's interesting because El Salvador used to have the highest murder rate in the whole of Latin America, and now it has the lowest rate.
Because they locked them all up.
They locked up their career criminals.
That's what we should be doing, isn't it?
And yet, there will be legal hurdles to deporting any criminal, or indeed holding any criminal in a foreign prison. There are strong legal protections for visitation rights for prisoners in this country, particularly underpinned by Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights.
You have to be allowed to see your girlfriend.
It's right to a family life, right? So your children, your parents, your aunts, uncles, cousins, they all have a right to see you, or you have a right to demand that they can see you.
We're so soft in this country. I mean, every day it feels like on this channel, we're always thinking about the human rights of the criminal, rather than, the rest of us who have to put up with crime on our streets. I'm sorry, but if you commit a crime like a rape or a murder or even serial offences, I'm not sure I care whether you get to see your wife.
Well, isn't the point that you sort of give up your human rights in many different forms? I mean, everyone has a right to sort of live a free life until you commit a crime, at which point you're put in prison. Your freedom is taken away from you. Your freedom that should be guaranteed by all sorts of rights. We accept that you don't have that in prison.
Well, I mean, the Reform are right to go on this, on the crime issue, because the polling is stark in this area. People are really concerned. That sort of lawless Britain image, narrative is very strong at the moment. So talking about how you're going to build more prison spaces, talking about how you're going to make sure offenders aren't released early, those are all tick, tick, ticks in a lot of people's eyes.
And yet they're fraught with problems as well. Obviously, the last government tried to do a prison building programme. They ran into roadblocks everywhere they tried to suggest a new prison should go. There was local opposition. No one wants to live next to a new prison. So the Reform... if Reform get into government, they'll face a big problem in terms of where do they put these new prisons.
You're a YIMBY, a yes to everything in my backyard. Would you be happy to live next to a prison?
I live in central London.
So basically as an outdoor prison?
I don't think it's the best place. Ultimately, the land value is too high in London to make it worthwhile.
Convenient, eh? Convenient.
That
wasn't my question, was it?
But I did used to live near a prison, actually, up in Durham.
Well, OK.
Which actually student housing backed onto. That was...
right, well, I think we should leave this conversation now because we've been talking for far too long and it is time for the headlines.
Thank you very much indeed. A very good afternoon to you, just after 12 o'clock. The government will scrap the water regulator Ofwat and replace it with one body for England and another for Wales. It comes after the commissioning of a report looking into years of sewage spills, soaring bills and underinvestment in the industry. The Independent Water Commission recommended a new ombudsman with legal powers to prevent customers being ripped off. Sir John Cunliffe, who chaired it, Indicated bills are likely to rise by 30% over the next 5 years, and Environment Secretary Steve Reid says the government is taking action to prevent the abuses of the past.
That the water industry in this country is broken. Our rivers, lakes and seas are polluted with record levels of sewage. Water pipes have been left to crumble into disrepair. Soaring water bills are straining family finances. Ofwat has failed to protect customers from water companies' mismanagement of their hard-earned money. So today, I can announce that the Labour government will abolish Ofwat.
Nigel Farage has promised to cut crime by half should Reform UK get into power. He's been setting out his party's proposals on law and order, including far greater use of stop and search, targeted curfews for under-18s in crime-ridden areas, and airport-style knife scanners. Under Reform's plans, foreign offenders will be deported to open up new prison places, while 30,000 more police officers will be recruited over 5 years. And the government says it's a series of unfunded promises. The Tories say Reform hasn't the faintest idea how to deliver, but the Reform UK is adamant things will change.
That Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years of a Reform government. We will take back control of our streets. We will take back control of our courts, of our prisons. And if you're a criminal, I am putting you on notice today that from 2029, or whenever that may be, either you obey the law or you will face very serious justice.
The search for a woman who went missing in Cheshire over the weekend has now entered a third day. 38-year-old Rachel Booth was last seen in the Barnton area of Northwich in the early hours of Saturday morning. She was caught on CCTV walking into a petrol station around 5 miles from her home at around 3:50 a.m, where she bought some milk and wine. Sniffer dogs have been deployed and an underwater search has been launched at a popular beauty spot, with police say they are becoming increasingly concerned for her well-being. 6 people have been arrested during the latest protest outside a hotel used to house asylum seekers in Essex. The disorder near the Bell Hotel in Epping followed the arrest and charge of an asylum seeker last week on suspicion of alleged sexual assaults in the town. Police have described the protest as mindless thuggery. Gaza's Civil Defence Agency says at least 93 Palestinians were killed queuing for food on Sunday. At least 80 died while waiting for UN aid trucks in the north. The World Food Programme says its convoy came under gunfire from Israeli troops. A further 13 people died as a result of attacks near aid distribution sites in the south. The Israeli military, which denies firing on the civilians, has this morning launched a fresh ground and air assault on the densely populated city of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza after issuing fresh evacuation orders. As being reported, Paul Gascoigne was rushed to hospital after collapsing at his home on Friday. It's understood the former England midfielder was admitted to intensive care after being found semi-conscious by a friend. He was later moved to an acute medical unit. He's stable but is expected to remain in hospital for several days. Gascoigne has admitted to struggling with alcohol addiction over many years. And people are to be offered free tickets to local football matches as part of a new scheme to tackle depression. It is all part of an effort to try to get people off medication, off antidepressants, and get them out doing exercise. They'll be given free tickets to local games to supply some fresh air and hopefully try to cut down those doctor appointments. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more in about half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.345 and 1.1558 euros. Gold will cost £2,501 and 13 pence per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 8,989 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 11 minutes past midday. Now, the leader of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage, has announced his party's new plan to get tough on crime.
Yes, it's a major speech. Mr Farage vows to take back control of our streets, our courts and our prisons as he pledges to never allow the early release of violent criminals and sex offenders, even proposing to send the most serious criminals to third countries like El Salvador.
Well, let's join our political editor, Christopher Hope, who was there at the speech for us, because, Christopher, this is a significant moment from the Reform Party that is trying to flesh out its policy offering.
That's right, Tom and Emily. It's the beginning of a 6-week campaign on law and order. While MPs go back to their constituencies tomorrow for a 6-week summer break, Nigel Farage is working through August. We saw this happen previously when he went hard on issues like members of the Tory party at the last over Christmas period. He tries to campaign when the west of Westminster is on its sunbed, and that's happening this August, it seems. We've heard that man there on screen now. The speech is still going. I've come back to the studio for GB News to report about it for you. He says he's putting criminals on notice. 30,000 more police hired between 2029 and 2034 if he forms next government. He says a family member of his had been mugged in the past. He found where the phone went to Buckinghamshire. He told us he didn't try and track it down, but he says this idea of property theft, acquisitive crime is felt by so many people. People don't feel the streets are safe anymore. Sarah Pochin, the new MP for Runcorn, she unveiled the plans. He didn't say quite that she's the new Shadow Home Secretary, but gave a real hint there that finally he's giving out top jobs to senior MPs as he tries to get going towards that period when we have to look at him seriously as a party that could form the next government. The cost of all this, £17.4 billion, he says, paid not from tax rises, but by cutting the HS2 rail line. But he did make a big announcement there about foreign criminals. Why are they here? He says in his world he'll be deporting over 10,000 of them. Here's what he said moments ago.
And there are 10,400 foreign prisoners in our prisons, has been mentioned on this platform already. They will be deported back to their home countries. And I think I'm in conversation with Edi Rama from Albania, and I think he's rather agreed that he will take back all of the Albanian prisoners in this country, which is rather a good thing. We can send some of our worst violent criminals overseas to serve their terms, then yes. And if that means that Ian Huntley goes to El Salvador, well, our attitude is so be it.
So he says that Britain is lawless and Reform UK can, in his words, take back control. Yes, those are the words again, obviously once used in the referendum in 2016 on the EU, used a lot more by Labour at the last election and now reappropriated, it seems, by Reform UK. Also pop-up custody centres, Nightingale prisons, and so it goes on. He wants to cut crime by half under a Reform government. And also he did comment under questioning about the violence we saw on GB News over the weekend at Epping. He says, of course, he condemns, he says, what he calls far-right thuggery, but he says in Westminster, few understand, he says, the risk of civil disobedience on a vast scale. He says that many in London don't understand the concern out there in the countryside about issues raised by the issues in Epping.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel Farage saying there that that it's lawless Britain and that he needs to get crime under control. I mean, that's what the British public are saying. I'm just looking at a poll that's been released today and reported in The Sun, I think, this morning. Most people are saying that most crimes appear to be out of control. 74% saying knife crime's out of control, 60% saying the same of violent crime, 70% saying theft is out of control, burglary out of control, all of these things, and a majority now thinking that we do live in a lawless country. So it's hardly surprising that he wants to make a noise on this issue.
Yeah, many feel that, but the actual figures do show a decline in some of those areas. But the sensation, the feeling by many people is the country's getting more lawless. It feels that way. But in fact, some of the Home Office stats seem to prove the other way. But certainly on shoplifting, acquisitive crime and other areas like that, they are on the up, it seems. And that's what Nigel Farage is trying to tap into with this big assault on law and order over this summer period. Again, pop-up custody suites and Nightingale prisons. He says here there'll be a zero tolerance on crime, and that starts with hiring 30,000 more police officers. A lot of money is being spent here, but as I said to you earlier, not through more taxation, but by cutting spending on net zero and by HS2, that rail link linking London and the north of England.
Questions there, given that the majority of HS2 will be built by the time of the next general election, at least between Birmingham and Old Oak Common. And the costs for police officers aren't a one-off infrastructure spend, that's a recurring spend. So it'll be interesting to see how those numbers are scored in that accompanying document. But Christopher Hope, we've got to move on, but we will speak to you again very shortly indeed.
OK, well, we're now joined by the political commentator Benedict Spence on this one. Nigel Farage making some big pledges, 17.4 billion, was it, over 5 years? But it does appear that crime is a top priority.
It is. It's a big spend. It's probably one of those things that a lot of people would be more than happy to see the government spending on, given that it has sort of risen to the top of a lot of people's priorities, the level of crime, not even just in big cities, also rurally. It seems that there's been a significant uptick in a lot of criminal activity. And the problem is, of course, for all other things that a government promises to do, upholding the law and enforcing it and punishing those who break it is sort of one of the key reasons, if not the key reason, for a government existing. So the fact that successive governments in this country have allowed that to sort of slip by the wayside is a significant problem. I suppose the major issue is going to be one of capacity because, as was sort of alluded to there, it's not simply a question of police officers. It's not just a question of prison spaces. It's also the criminal justice system itself. It's barristers, it's courts, it's holding cells, it's transportation. Do you bother to outsource things to third companies? G4S and Serco have famously been catastrophically bad at many of the services that they provide within our justice system. And, what price do you put on rehabilitation? How much emphasis do you put on that, as well as punishment and containment? Because, of course, if you don't have a plan to rehabilitate people, you can stick them in prison for the length of their sentences. They will still be likely to reoffend when they come out. So it's a 17-odd billion pound proposal, but one of those things that you imagine, given that this is the United Kingdom and this is how things work, the costs of that will probably end up spiralling the closer and closer you get to actually initiating this.
Speaking of costs, another story today. Labour are apparently considering raising the state pension age. It's currently 67, isn't it? Going up to 68. Could go even further. Can we afford the state pension age to remain where it is, Benedict?
No, we can't. It's really, I could just give that really short answer because everybody knows that we can't afford it as it currently stands. The problem is there's a rather large block of people who disagree with that, and they vote. So it'll take quite a bold government to actually decide to enact this. But it does have to be done, and that's one of the things that this government did say that it would do. It would be a bit more mature. It would do the difficult things, and has thus far actually not done because it is slightly scared of its own shadow. But this is something that's going to happen. We have far too many resources being taken out of our economy, out of our state sector by the elderly. And this is not me having a go at them and saying that they haven't worked hard their whole lives, because I know what's going to happen on my Twitter the second that I do this, but you have to look at the figures. It's not affordable under the current system.
Sorry, I should say it's 66, going up to 67 already, and they're considering further increases. Got to get that right.
Yes. Don't scare anyone who's hoping to retire. But of course, this wouldn't be about people who are currently in their 60s. When we're talking about raising the state pension age potentially further decades down the line, we're talking about you and me. Benedict, not about people who are currently of pension age. So potentially...
Not me. I'm just going to retire early, am I?
I don't know. About people who are in their...
You know that, right?
But here's the thing, right? This isn't about taking money away from pensioners who currently receive money. This is about making people who are currently in work longer. If anything, that's more politically palatable. I mean, it's squeezing people who are in their 30s, not people who are in their 60s, and people in their 30s vote less. So potentially the Labour Party's onto a winner with this one.
I still think, I mean, the key thing is when it comes to pensioners, even though you're right to point out that this isn't going to affect people who are already drawing their pension, I think that there is a slightly militant sense amongst the older generations of this country that if anything is encroached upon on their territory, that's the beginning of the slippery slope, and that then the government will come for more things the second that this sort of thing is more palatable to do so. I think we've already seen that with the winter fuel allowance thing. You know, it's something that everybody agrees needed to be reformed, needed to change.
But there's a difference, Benedict, between someone getting a payment each winter, that you can see that going into your bank account, that disappearing. That's so much more visceral than people who've never received a penny of pension money, getting that pension money a bit later. I mean, potentially that has a less visceral reaction from a cohort that we all know votes and votes and votes.
I think, well, if you're now talking about the younger generation, say us, I think actually it'll prompt a very visceral reaction because we can already see our current pay packets being eaten away by inflation and wage suppression. You know, we haven't even got to the pension stage yet, and we already understand that we are significantly poorer than our parents and our grandparents were. So if you want to sort of take that argument, I understand where you're coming from, but it's not as if we can't see into the future and can see.
I can hear people shouting at their screens right now saying, "Stop whinging. You've got it all right, stop whinging, blah, 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 etc."
I'll be fine, but that's because I'll emigrate before the actual crisis hits. You can all suffer with this.
Well, this is getting a bit depressing. Benedict Spence, thank you very much indeed, political commentator there. Let us know what you make of that state pension age. Do you think it needs to go up? I think it really depends what type of job you do. And there is a significant minority of people in this country who get all of their income from the state pension.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
But if we're living longer, healthier lives, perhaps
keep working.
By the time that we're 70, we'll feel like we're 50, you know. It traditionally has been the case that, you know, we live longer, healthier lives, so that makes more sense. But perhaps you're afraid of the government taking away a bunch of money. Maybe you're in your 30s and you need to save up for your own pension because you're never, ever going to get a state pension. Well, in that case, you want to join our Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win £54,321 tax-free cash. Yes, Rachel Reeves can't get her hands on it. Here's how to enter.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you can win our biggest cash prize so far. £54,321 in tax-free cash is up for grabs in our summer Great British Giveaway. Cash to spend on anything you like. All of that cash could send you on a holiday, boost your savings, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Still to come, we're going to be discussing whether the UK, this country, should be looking to emulate Greece, because the country's new immigration minister over in Greece has been warning any wannabe illegal immigrants that they will be deported or locked up immediately if they enter Greece illegally.
Well, that and so much more to come on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Well, we have found some peacocks, so we've been speaking to people today, hearing from them how much of a nuisance they say they are. It is a real mix, though, here. Some people saying that actually they're all right, that they're part of the furniture of this village now. You can see this peacock here showing all of its feathers. going to be very honest with you, we have just seen it attempt to mate the peahen that you can see behind it there. And this showing of feathers is part of the thing, what they do to part of the mating call here as well, to try and show all of the feathers off and everything like that. And there's a thing that they do train rattling as well. I wonder if Mr. Peacock might talk to us. Mr. Peacock, would you?
Come on, Jack. Come on, Jack. We need you to get involved.
Not sure. This is your GB News, Jack.
This is your big David Attenborough moment, Jack.
Any questions to say to the nuisance you might be causing people? Any response?
Although this feels a little bit intimate now, if there's a bit of a moment going on. It's all got a bit voyeuristic.
Very happy to talk to us so far this morning, but some residents of Tutbury here have spoken to us this morning. Take a listen to what they've told us about what they think about all these peacocks.
They've been here longer than I have, so I've lived in the house I live in at the top here 47 years. They've been there all that time, because they were from the castle to start with. The people at the castle used to have them, and they're just part of the village.
I hate them. When they do all that damage, it's heartbreaking, you know. Yeah, round them up and take them to a farm or a zoo, where they're supposed to be.
They're like the furniture. They should stay around here. You know, people just need to let them get on with what they are. They're nature's animals, and they deserve to live around here, don't they?
GB News, the People's Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past midday. Now, new polling suggests that Angela Rayner's plan to introduce an official government definition of Islamophobia could cost Labour more than 1 million votes, handing the Reform Party a 100-seat majority at the next election.
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, she's appointed a panel to draw up this definition across the public sector, despite warnings that it could stop politicians speaking up about all sorts of issues, including grooming gangs.
Well, joining us now is the Director of Political Analytics. Is that the title? Analytics? We've got analytics written there, but I don't think that that's necessarily a word. I'm not
You've
sure.
really confused me, because I would have read that very differently. Anyway, Patrick English, tell us how you pronounce
your very own title.
Yeah,
analytics. Analytics. I just can't read.
He's
I don't know what it is this Monday morning.
He didn't know it was Monday. He didn't know it was the 21st of July.
And I can't read the word analytics. I might as well just walk off here. Shall we return to the substance of this interview, Patrick English? Apologies for that massacred introduction. This is a poll suggesting that Labour's vote share goes down when you prompt with a specific unpopular policy.
Yeah, no problem at all, Tom. It is Monday after all. Yeah, so it's some interesting polling here done by some colleagues of ours over at JL Partners, which, as you say, suggests that if voters are presented with this very specific information, there might be a decrease in the overall probability of a respondent to say that they will vote Labour at the next election. And given where Labour are in the polls right now and where Reform are in the polls right now, any movement such as that could indeed and can and would be very costly in terms of parliamentary seats. I would caution these results with two important caveats, though. Firstly, the movement that we're talking about, Reform going up 1 after the sort of the treatment, if you like, of voters being shown this potential change in policy, Reform going up 1, Labour going down 3, that is movement within what we call in statistics the margin of error associated with any statistic drawn from a representative sample of a much larger population. So theoretically, the change could be absolutely nothing, although as reported, it looks like there may be something going on there. The second thing is, we have to be careful not to overinterpret these specific polls in isolation. When we put respondents, well, we put 2 respondents, potential changes or policies or movements which are just one thing, what they tend to do is they tend to over-interpret, or they tend to overstate the importance of that single one thing on vote intention. As you and I and everybody watching will know, so many things go into the decision to vote for a party on the day. So a lot of things will be competing, so we shouldn't probably over-interpret this one issue too much, although it is interesting to note what might happen if voters are thinking about this specific thing when they go to the ballot box.
To Angela Rayner, at least, that she needs to be careful on this issue in terms of popularity. But yes, of course, not many people, I suppose, will go into the ballot box 4 years from now with the Islamophobia definition front and centre of why they're voting. It will be things like immigration, it will be things like the economy, it will be things like crime, won't it, first and foremost?
That is absolutely correct, yes. The top issues right now for the British voting public, indeed the British public in general, are immigration, the economy, health, crime is certainly up there as well. Housing is an issue which is coming to the forefront too. These are all immense challenges for the Labour Party, for the government, and indeed for any party looking to put forward a credible alternative to government. The British public right now are telling us that they are absolutely sick to the back teeth of so many of these issues. They are long-form issues. These are not things which have just suddenly come to the fore, as some of the discussion earlier on this programme has been talking about. These are long-term frustrations for many within the British public. The cost of living crisis is still not over for so many millions of Britons, and these are the sorts of issues that are much more likely to decide or be decisive in how voters behave in the next general election than Islamophobia definitions. That's absolutely correct.
But of course, there's also the issue of bandwidth. And if the voting public see the government being focused on issues like defining Islamophobia or reducing the voting age or sort of doing things that probably aren't high on anyone's list of priorities, I suppose that could generate a feeling of distraction, of waywardness from the government. Sort of the question that might come up on the doorstep, what are you actually doing about the things I care about?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. The government needs to be able to give very solid, very clear directives to the public when the public are looking at voting again in the next general election, to say to them, yes, look, we understand your concerns about the cost of living, about immigration, about crime, and here's what we did on each of them. I think it's not necessarily an either-or situation. I think you can do both, but it is absolutely the case that the government, if they want to do things such as this and they want to do things such as lowering the voting age, well, they need to be coupling with that with issues, with policies, with changes which directly address the sorts of things which voters really care about right now. Because as you say, this definition and votes at 16, they are not public priorities.
No. Patrick English, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I should just say that I do know what the word analytics is.
It's, one of those days where you confused me by saying it wrong, and I was like, no, analytics.
Is it a word? And then I think what was happening is I was expecting the word analysis, which has a very different emphasis at the start of it. And I started reading analysis, and then I saw the C and tripped.
Don't worry, our viewers and listeners don't think you're stupid.
Well, they might. But you know what? If they do, that is their right.
He's just had a busy weekend, guys.
Oh, dearie me. We do have some breaking news to bring you, though. The government have released new Ministerial code guidelines in an attempt to hold MPs to account and drive up standards across the public sector.
OK, what on earth does that mean? GB News political editor Christopher Hope joins us now. Christopher, an overhaul of the Ministerial code. What does this mean?
Yeah, there are three big headlines from this change, and it is important here. The government says that from now on, ministers will only get payoffs when they leave office if they've served more than 6 months in their roles, because as we saw into the chaos of the last 2 years of the Tory government, there were as much as £250,000 given to 35 Tory ministers, some of whom who were imposed for fewer than 6 months, some imposed for just 37 days. It was really annoying for people when Boris Johnson was hiring people. They were leaving when of course, he quit as PM days later. They still got 3 months' salary. It was grossly unfair, a very bad look, I think, for the government. This is welcome reform. They're also changing what's called a COBA, which stands for the Advisory Committee on Business Appointments. This is a committee that sits in Whitehall. It's cross-party with Tories on it, Labour on it, other parties too. It's meant to vet the jobs that ministers get after they quit being MPs, and to check whether what they're doing is not exploiting information used when they're ministers. But it's widely seen as being toothless. All they can do is issue letters, and that's about it. So under new changes, if ex-ministers are found to have breached rules or any guidance on when they're on the jobs they take up after government, they will lose some of their payoff. They'll forego some of their salaries, which or some of their payoffs when they left office, which sounds like a good thing. And also, there's a big strengthening of a Whitehall ethics watchdog. So all in all, you've got to say these are things which I think will improve how ministers are treated. Stop some of them getting paid thousands of pounds for a few days' work because they leave office. It seems to make sense to me.
Is this the Liz Truss effect, perhaps? Because, of course, she was in office for not a very long time.
Well, exactly that. No one wants to see the repeat of the chaotic time in office of Liz Truss. Some would say her policies weren't that bad, but certainly the chaotic nature of her government, which meant ministers were appointed and then let go within weeks and then got a 3-month payoff, that is clearly wrong, and the government is rightly changing it.
Yeah, and a lot of those MPs did pay back the money or refused to accept it, but not all of them. Christopher Hope, thanks indeed for bringing us that very latest breaking news.
Surely very hard to manage ministers going on to other jobs and whether or not they're going to be using what they've learnt in their ministerial job in a new job.
Well, normally it's a mandatory cooling-off period.
Yes.
So Rishi Sunak couldn't accept his job at Goldman Sachs until a year after the election, which is why he's just joined that now. And there was a big amount of speculation about whether or not Okoba would stop Sue Gray going to work for the Labour Party so soon after working at the heart of government.
That ended badly.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised that Okoba didn't set a longer cooling-off period.
Interesting. Well, get your thoughts in on that one. But in the meantime, after the break, we're going to be discussing a groundbreaking trial that prescribes football matches for depression sufferers. We're going to be speaking to Dale Vince on this one. Stick around.
The government's confirmed it will abolish the water regulator Ofwat and replace it with separate bodies for England and Wales. It comes after a major review into the industry, 88 recommendations made to try to tackle the problems that the country has been facing. The regulator will be replaced with a separate one for England and Wales. It's a major overhaul since privatisation. Nigel Farage has promised to take back control of our streets, courts and prisons. In a speech setting out Reform UK's proposals for law and order, he's pledged to deport foreign offenders to free up prison space and 30,000 more police officers over 5 years. Police say they're becoming increasingly concerned for the well-being of 38-year-old Rachel Booth, who went missing in Cheshire at the weekend, as she was seen on CCTV last in the Barnton area of Northwich in the early hours of Saturday morning. Gaza Civil Defence Agency says at least 93 Palestinians have been killed queuing for food on Sunday. The Israeli military, meanwhile, has launched a fresh ground and air attack on the densely populated city of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza after issuing fresh evacuation orders. And the FA is working with police to ensure those responsible for racist abuse aimed at Lioness Jess Carter are brought to justice. Carter's revealed she has been targeted throughout the Euros. Those are your headlines. More at 1 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is a pretty unsettled start to the week. We have lots of heavy showers around and plenty of thunder mixed in with these. But towards the northwest, there's a bit more in the way of persistent heavy rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland and also into western Scotland. Various fronts around the UK at the moment, low pressure firmly in charge, and it's this that's bringing the pretty unsettled theme. Away from the far northwest and also parts of southwest England, where there's a lot of cloud and persistent rain. Elsewhere, there will be a mixture of sunny breaks and showers, but always worth bearing in mind those showers could pack quite a punch. They could be heavy, they could be thundery. In between the showers, though, if you get any sunshine, it is going to feel pretty warm, with temperatures in the low, perhaps even mid-20s for many of us. Then, as we go into this evening, not a huge amount changes, so still some heavy rain affecting western parts of Scotland. Totals could continue to build up as we go overnight, so some flooding is possible. Further south and east across Scotland, just a bit of showery rain, but some of this could still be heavy and thundery. A pretty damp end to the day across much of Northern Ireland and across many parts of particularly southern and western Wales and southwest England, but across the rest of England and Wales, well, it's the similar picture to much of today, really. Some sunny breaks perhaps, but also a few lingering showers. Overnight, the rain across parts of Scotland is going to feed a little bit further eastward, so many places turning quite cloudy with further outbreaks of rain. Also rain down the western side of Wales and into parts of southwest England. Clearer skies further east. This could allow for a bit of fog to develop in some places, but largely dry for eastern parts. But it's not going to last. As we go through tomorrow, the showery rain across western areas will feed a bit further eastward, so turning cloudier across eastern parts, and there will be a few outbreaks of rain around as well. Generally, the wet weather through tomorrow doesn't look like it will be as intense as what we're seeing through today, but nonetheless, there could be some heavier thundery bursts and temperatures on a similar level. See you later.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A92 in Cowdenbeath, southbound lanes face restrictions due to a hazard. In Greater London, a collision on the M25 anti-clockwise has closed 3 of 4 lanes between junctions 28 and 27, causing major delays. The M2 eastbound at Medway Services is shut due to another incident, and all lanes on the A303 westbound between the A350 and the A371 are closed following a collision, and on the trains, South Western Railway faces disruptions at London Waterloo and Eastleigh, while Avanti West Coast reports delays between Lancaster and Carlisle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 1:45. Now, GPs are going to be able to prescribe depression sufferers with free tickets to the football.
Gosh, well, the scheme is being launched by Labour and backed by GPs, who say that watching the game could help alleviate symptoms by encouraging people to socialise more.
Well, with 8.5 million Brits on antidepressants, could this be the antidote that people really need?
Well, we're joined by the chairman of Forest Green Rovers, Dale Vince. You may know him from Ecotricity. There we go. We're not getting our words out today as well. Dale, and also a green campaigner, of course. Dale, so what's all this about? You're involved in this scheme. The idea is that people who've got depression need to get out and about, and football's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up really rather well there. Football is a place for communities. It's a place where you feel a part of something. I know this from my experience of football. I've been running Forest Green for about 15 years now. And chatting to our local GP, who happens to be also our MP, we just had the idea, why don't we offer football on prescription? Because it'd be a lovely thing to do. Football is a great place to come and meet other people and be a part of something. And it could really help people that are feeling isolated and lonely and you know, other aspects of mental health. So I'm really happy to be taking part in this, and if it works here in Stroud, then we're hoping we'll roll it out nationally, and maybe even the NHS will embrace it as a national programme. That would be great.
And to be clear, this isn't the NHS buying football tickets, which can be quite expensive and maybe not the best use of the NHS's money. This is football clubs that have signed up to voluntarily offer seats to be a part of this programme.
Yeah, and right now it's one football club, Forest Green Rovers, but I hope that football clubs up and down the country and up and down the leagues of football as well, because it doesn't have to be a Premier Championship club. You know, there are lots of great leagues in our country and local clubs for people to go and take part with. So yeah, it's not being paid for by the NHS. It's being paid for currently by Forest Green Rovers. But you know, I think football clubs up and down the country have the scope to bring some people in. You know,
Dale,
to make
you're
some
a businessman,
seats
though.
available.
You're a businessman, though. Surely you must see some, you know, some dollar signs on this one. Sell the tickets to the NHS.
Well, I'm British, so I don't look at dollar signs. But look, I'm
pound
primarily.
signs.
I'm primarily an environmentalist, and what I care about is making our country a better place. I spend most of my time pursuing the green economy, but I believe in tax justice, social justice, that kind of stuff. Mental health is a crisis in our country, particularly for men. It's the biggest cause of suicide for the under 50s. Men are affected 3 times more than women. Men don't tend to talk to each other. They don't talk about their problems. And so this is not about money. People say that to me quite often, like, oh, surely there's a money angle. But I don't do things for money.
So you won't make any money out of this scheme?
Well, other than some good press for the Forest Green Rovers, I suppose. I mean, everything's advertising. But
well, hang on, I want to know, will you make any money out of this scheme, Dale?
The answer is no.
OK.
The answer is no, absolutely.
The big thing here is how many people are medicated on depression in the country. And I suppose a worry is that we're over-medicating something that could be fixed with, frankly, more social interaction.
Yeah, I think that's right. And GPs for a while now have been prescribing walks in nature and stuff like that. There are other ways that we can kind of heal ourselves. But I think interacting with people is probably the most powerful way. And so, to overlook the kind of, I don't know what you suggest, the suggestion that we're making money here or doing this for publicity, I think it's better to look at the rates of prescription and the cost of the NHS and the cost of mental health of failing to deal with it properly. Yeah. I'm most excited that what we might have here is a magic answer.
No, well, I hope Forest Green Rovers do get some publicity out of it, because that's the incentive structure that then other clubs might join in after you guys. But while we have you, Dale, I do want to ask, we understand that the green energy auctions, the auctions that run every year to set a price for wind energy, they've been delayed by 8 months by this government. There's a lot of concern that Ed Miliband's new wind energy auction has been pushed into parliamentary recess because he's going to be paying more for wind energy than the average price of electricity would be. Now, you run a big green energy company. What do you make of that accusation against the Energy Secretary?
I don't know if it's based on fact. I know that the last round of auctions under the Conservative government just over a year ago failed because the price was set too low. It was uneconomic. Now, I don't know if there's going to be an adjustment for that. But what I can tell you is that we're paying too much for wind and solar energy in our country right now because we allow the price of them to be pegged at the price of fossil fuel gas, the international price. And so in 2023, it added £43 billion to our energy bills for no good reason. And so our big focus is on breaking the link between the price of fossil gas and the price of green energy.
But are you concerned about these particular negotiations now? It seems like it's going to be more expensive for the government to bid for wind power than it was last year or any previous year.
But I think being more expensive than the failed auction round is just logical because it failed. Didn't get any capacity at all because it was uneconomic. The price being set under these contracts for difference is on average lower than the global price of fossil fuel gas. If you look back last 5 or 10 years, you'll see that it saved us money. And so I know they're presented as subsidies, but it's not a subsidy.
The risk is that it gets more expensive as time goes on.
Well, it keeps doing that, doesn't it? We keep having these blips in international fuel prices due to a crisis here and a crisis there, and we're very exposed to them. In 2022, it cost us £80 billion. 2023 was £43 billion. These are mad sums of money. They don't create any jobs or any infrastructure at all. The money leaves our country and pays for foreign oil and gas.
OK, Dale Vince, thank you very much indeed, Chairman of Forest Green Rovers, and also at Ecotricity. Well, there you go. Let us know your thoughts. If you're searching some holiday sun, here's the travel weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. It's hot and sunny across the vast majority of the Mediterranean at the moment. 1 or 2 showers in the north and fairly breezy across the Canary Islands and also Madeira. This northeasterly wind is bringing in a bit more in the way of cloud as well. Hot and sunny though for Iberia, most of Italy as well. Just 1 or 2 showers up towards Croatia and Slovenia. But for Greece and Turkey, hot and sunny, temperatures into the mid-30s. So do remember that sunscreen. And as we go through the next few days, it stays very similar.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many
5.
fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. Of course, there has been a big controversy over the Lionesses and indeed whether or not they take the knee before Tuesday's big semi-final Euros game. Well, there has been accusations of racism directed towards some of the players, particularly Jess Carter, who's a Lioness. She's received some racist abuse online during this contest.
Yeah, so let's speak to Chris Scudder, sports broadcaster and journalist. Chris, how much racism has Jess Carter been subject to, and why have the team decided to axe taking the knee for something else, Chris? Oh, OK, Chris is gone. Very dramatic. But yes, the Lionesses have decided that this is not the best way to tackle racism, to take the knee, and that they need to find some other way of doing so, standing up towards racism, because we do know that, unfortunately, in football, lots of players do experience quite a bit of it.
Yeah, and I think this makes a lot of sense, the statement that they've put out, which is, you know what, we need more than gestures. I mean, surely it should be taken as read that all of the teammates of this particular football player don't like the fact that she's received racist abuse. I mean, does kneeling at the start of the match make any of that better? Or actually, does it perhaps lead to the kind of people that would throw racist abuse, make it more likely that they would? I mean, ultimately, are there better ways to tackle what is a problem of abuse towards footballers?
Yeah, I don't know what you do. I mean, so much of it is on social media. I mean, it's one thing someone shouting racist abuse from the stands, which you can deal with.
Yeah.
Social media, a whole different ballpark. I mean, so many of these accounts are anonymous.
Yeah.
So many are trolls. You get barrages of insults.
Lots of them aren't even in this country.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we found
too.
out with a lot of the people that directed abuse towards Marcus Rashford, actually, it turned out the accounts were from overseas. So, I mean, how do you control that?
Well, we're going to get the latest on Reform UK's plan to crack down on crime in Britain after the weather.
Heavy
heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is a pretty unsettled start to the week. We have lots of heavy showers around and plenty of thunder mixed in with these. But towards the northwest, there's a bit more in the way of persistent heavy rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland and also into western Scotland. Various fronts around the UK at the moment, low pressure firmly in charge, and it's this that's bringing the pretty unsettled theme. Away from the far northwest and also parts of southwest England, where there's a lot of cloud and persistent rain. Elsewhere, there will be a mixture of sunny breaks and showers, but always worth bearing in mind those showers could pack quite a punch. They could be heavy, they could be thundery. In between the showers, though, if you get any sunshine, it is going to feel pretty warm, with temperatures in the low, perhaps even mid-20s for many of us. Then, as we go into this evening, not a huge amount changes, so still some heavy rain affecting western parts of Scotland. Totals could continue to build up as we go overnight, so some flooding is possible. Further south and east across Scotland, just a bit of showery rain, but some of this could still be heavy and thundery. A pretty damp end to the day across much of Northern Ireland and across many parts of particularly southern and western Wales and southwest England, but across the rest of England and Wales, well, it's the similar picture to much of today, really. Some sunny breaks perhaps, but also a few lingering showers. Overnight, the rain across parts of Scotland is going to feed a little bit further eastward, so many places turning quite cloudy with further outbreaks of rain. Also rain down the western side of Wales and into parts of southwest England. Clearer skies further east. This could allow for a bit of fog to develop in some places, but largely dry for eastern parts. But it's not going to last. As we go through tomorrow, the showery rain across western areas will feed a bit further eastward, so turning cloudier across eastern parts, and there will be a few outbreaks of rain around as well. Generally, the wet weather through tomorrow doesn't look like it will be as intense as what we're seeing through today, but nonetheless, there could be some heavier thundery bursts and temperatures on a similar level. See you later.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
An amber heat alert remains in place across all of England until Monday morning.
Well, joining us now, GB News reporter Jack Carson. Jack Carson, where are you? Tell us. Oh, he's rowing. Jack Carson, what a go on?
Good morning. Good morning. Well, we're in the beautiful Stratford-upon-Avon, so we were on the big wheel earlier on, and one of the other beautiful things you can do is also row on the river as well. This is the Avon Boating Club. This has been going since the 1800s, 1898 it started. This boat over here on the right, that was bought brand new all the way back in the day, so it's historic here, and a lot of these boats are from the likes of the 1930s as well, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's this beautiful sunny weather. Here we are on the river. I've never rowed in my life before, but I think I've got the hang of it okay. But let's have a listen to a few of the people we've spoken to this morning about how they're enjoying the weather today.
Yesterday I did start to think, right, I'm getting a bit sweaty and hot now, so yeah, but it's nice, isn't it? As long as there's a breeze, it's not too bad.
Can't beat it. Literally the best thing ever. Yay!
They make the most of it because the winter was terrible this year with all the rain, so this is payback.
It makes us feel better, doesn't it? Bit of sun on our bones. It really does.
Enjoying the weather, Will? Nice? Sunny?
chatty.
Well, there you go. That's what some people have been saying to us this morning about how they're enjoying the weather. I think I've got myself into a bit of a pickle. Hopefully we're not going to capsize. I think other people might be a bit more experienced in the rowing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Monday, the 21st of July. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
That Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years.
The Reform Party will end the early release of sex offenders and violent criminals, build 30,000 new prison places, and even send some of the worst offenders to prison in El Salvador. Nigel Farage claims his plans will see crime slashed in half, but how realistic is that?
Elsewhere, a new poll claims that Labour's plans to create an official definition of Islamophobia could hand Reform a 100-seat majority at the next election. It all comes amid fears the definition could prevent politicians or indeed satirists speaking up about any issue to do with Islam, not least grooming gangs.
We'll be bringing the latest from Epping in Essex, where anti-migrant hotel protests continued over the weekend after an asylum seeker was charged with sexual assault.
Elsewhere, the search for missing mother of three, Rachel Booth, enters its third day, as she was last seen at a petrol station in the early hours of Saturday morning. We'll be bringing the very latest with an investigative report.
And Labour have announced a review into the state pension age early. Yes, this is experts warn workers retiring in 2050 will be £800 a year worse off than today's pensioners. Would you support a rise in the state pension age? I wonder how Labour and the Conservatives will respond to what Nigel Farage had to say today, because you've got Robert Jenrick on the Conservative side and Chris Philp and others really making a play for this space.
I think it would be a real mistake for the government to go forward and say crime's never been lower. To put forward some of the official statistics that have been bandied about, some cherry-picked, some because people are reporting crime less, and say that everything's fine, when clearly the polling shows people feel that crime has got worse. The most out-of-touch thing that a politician could possibly do is to say, but look, everything's fine.
Well, yes, because people have their own eyes and ears. They have their own experience. They have anecdotal evidence. They also see that police officers don't always follow up with certain criminal reports, do they? Indeed, only a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of crimes ever lead to a conviction. So people see what they see, and they don't like being told, oh, no, you're wrong, actually, because they feel like they're being gaslit.
And so much of it is the low-level stuff that just degrades society. People stealing things from shops, graffitiing public places, or just causing antisocial behaviour. I mean, all of these things just make the country a worse place to live. And it really matters to get the small stuff right.
Yeah, and I think a crackdown on serial offenders, making sure people aren't early released from prison, which we've seen a lot of recently, would be a good start. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Well, let's get the headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon to you. Our headlines. The government's promised to halve water pollution over the next 5 years in what it's describing as a revolution of the industry. The regulator, Ofwat, will be abolished and replaced by separate bodies in England and Wales, and an ombudsman created to protect consumer rights. It follows a report commissioned by the government following years of sewage spills, soaring bills and underinvestment. Household bills are expected to rise by 30% over the next 5 years, and Environment Secretary Steve Reid says he'll be taking action to prevent abuses of the past.
That the water industry in this country is broken. Our rivers, lakes and seas are polluted with record levels of sewage. Water pipes have been left to crumble into disrepair. Soaring water bills are straining family finances. Ofwat has failed to protect customers from water companies' mismanagement of their hard-earned money. So today, I can announce that the Labour government will abolish Ofwat.
Nigel Farage has promised to cut crime by half should Reform get into power. He's been setting out his party's proposals on law and order, including greater use of stop and search, targeted curfews for under 18s in crime-ridden areas and airport-style night scanners. Under Reform's plans, foreign offenders will be deported to open up new prison places, while 30,000 more police officers will be recruited over 5 years. The Reform UK leader is adamant they can make a change.
That Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years of a Reform government. We will take back control of our streets. We will take back control of our courts, of our prisons. And if you're a criminal, I am putting you on notice today that from 2029, or whenever that may be, either you obey the law or you will face very serious justice.
The search for a woman who went missing in Cheshire over the weekend has entered a third day. 38-year-old Rachel Booth was last seen in the Barnton area of Northwich in the early hours of Saturday morning. She was caught on CCTV walking into a petrol station some 5 miles from her home at around 3:50 a.m, where she bought some wine and milk. She walked into the garage. That was the last she was seen. Police have been extending their search to a popular beauty spot nearby, saying they're increasingly concerned for her well-being. Gaza's Civil Defence Agency says at least 93 Palestinians have been killed queuing for food on Sunday. At least 80 were waiting for UN food trucks in the north of the Strip at the time. The UN World Food Programme says its convoy came under fire from Israeli troops. A further 13 people died as a result of attacks near aid distribution sites in the south. The Israeli military, which has denied firing on civilians, has this morning launched a fresh air and ground attack on Deir al-Balah, a popular, densely populated area in the south. The UN has condemned the violence, calling it a blow to the fragile lifelines keeping people alive in Gaza. Russia's launched a fresh wave of drone and missile strikes on Ukraine overnight. Officials in Kyiv says one person was killed and another 7 wounded after the strikes caused multiple fires across the capital. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 426 drones and another 24 missiles, but only 23 of those got through to their targets. It's being reported Paul Gascoigne was rushed to hospital after collapsing at his home on Friday. It's understood the former England midfielder was admitted to intensive care when he was found semi-conscious by a friend before later being moved to an acute medical unit. He's understood to be stable but will remain in hospital for a number of days. Gascoigne has admitted to struggling with alcohol addiction over many years. And the FA is in contact with police after the Lioness Jess Carter revealed she's experienced racist abuse throughout the Euros. A team statement posted on the Lioness's official account on X read this: "We stand with Jess and all Lioness players who have suffered racism." Meanwhile, the England team say they will not be taking the knee ahead of tomorrow's semi-final against Italy, saying it's clear football needs to find another way to tackle racism. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more a little bit later.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.34 and €1.15. Gold will cost £2,504.43 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 8,977 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 9 minutes past 1. Now, the Reform Party leader Nigel Farage has announced his party's new plan to get tough on crime.
Yes, he made a major speech today and he vowed to take back control of our streets, our courts and our prisons, and pledged to never allow the early release of violent criminals and sex offenders, even proposing to send the most serious criminals to third countries like potentially El Salvador.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, can join us now with more detail on this, because this is a big policy offering from the Reform Party.
That's right, Tom, and morning, Emily. That's right. It's a big set-piece speech here by Nigel Farage, flanked there by Sarah Pochin, the Reform UK MP, and, of course, Leila Cunningham, a former Tory councillor in Westminster who's now moved to Reform UK. They're going to spend the next 6 weeks banging on and on and on about safety in our streets, law and order. They've got some big policies announced today from this Reform UK party. They say here it will cost 17.4 billion in all, 30,000 more police, deporting 10,400 foreign criminals. He wants to make Reform UK, that's Nigel Farage, the toughest party on law and order in this country has ever seen. He says there they want to try and ensure that foreign criminals go back to overseas. He wants to halve crime in the first 5 years of a Reform UK government, all funded by cuts to HS2 and net zero. And earlier I asked that very question because people looking at any of the government spending money in any big way, we all think about tax increases. Here's what he told us. 3 quick questions. No need to raise taxes then. You can fund all this through cutting HS2 and net zero. So no tax increases from today's announcement. Is that what you're saying? Did you leave it there when you found out where your family member's phone was in Buckinghamshire? Did you go and knock on the door? Or did you just give up on that one? And just finally, is Sarah Pochin your new shadow Home Secretary?
Right, very, very good. There's no need to raise taxes to do this. There are massive savings we can make, and you'll hear more of that as time goes on. As far as the telephone's concerned, I'm not as brave. I mean, Layla goes off chasing thugs and criminals. But, if you resist, there is a risk. Look what happened to that young man from Hampshire when someone tried to take his Rolex watch in Knightsbridge. In daylight, a few weeks ago, he resisted, he was stabbed to death. So it's a really difficult one. Am I going to sit here and say to the public, you should have a go at these thugs? I don't feel I can do that. It's a matter of individual conscience. But there are so many people now carrying blades out there that it's genuinely frightening.
Farage there answering questions from me earlier at that press conference. Now the Labour government has responded. Ellie Reeves, the chair of the Labour Party, she points out that Reform UK MPs have voted against measures brought in by the government to make the streets safer. They say that Reform is more interested in headline chasing than serious policy making in the interests of the British people. They say that Labour is backing up its words with action, with 13,000 more neighbourhood police back on the streets, not the 30,000 warranted officers that Nigel Farage says he'll do, and clamping down on crimes blighting our communities, building a safer and fairer country for us all. So the political battle of the summer could be law and order.
OK, well, Christopher Hope, thank you very much indeed. We'll now speak to the former Met Police Chief Inspector, Peter Kirkham, on this. Peter, lots of big pledges here from the Reform Party. It will be music to the ears of those in this country who are deeply concerned about crime, and we know people are. Does it add up in your mind?
Not really. There's some good bits, there's some bad bits. There's some bits that are illogical. There's some bits that the usual Nigel Farage approach to explaining where the money's coming from.
OK, so which bits are illogical, Peter? Which bits are illogical?
Well, the putting the police officers back is desperately needed, so that would be good, putting police officers back into the operational strength. But the stuff about prison reform and cutting early release, that is likely to backfire in 2 ways. Number one, it's going to mean that cell space is going to be needed where it wouldn't have otherwise been for the early release prisoners. And secondly, it's probably going to interfere with rehabilitation to a certain extent. And that then is going to feed through into more reoffending. So it'll be a long time before it's worked out what has happened exactly and what can be attributed to which measure. And it may never even be plain. But yes, there are certainly words there that will appeal to those that feel that
I mean, with the building of With the building of these Nightingale-style prisons within 18 months of the next election, would that fix that problem around the early release?
It would certainly help it, because it would mean that there was an 18-month lead time rather than the 4 or 5 years I think it is for a prison at the moment. And so, yes, it would definitely help with that. The sending of foreign prisoners abroad more is sensible. We have arrangements in place with a number of countries, so extending that roster so more prisoners can be sent abroad to complete their sentences, that's good. Some thought probably needs to be given to whether or not we can be sure that they are actually completing their sentences once abroad, because otherwise that would be viewed as an early release.
Yes, I can see the argument there. However, I suppose one might argue then it's not our problem. Yeah. I mean, if these people are dangerous individuals, they're out of the country, well, then they're out of the country, job done.
But for sure. I mean, on a practical level, they're gone. It's not our problem, unless they come back. But the deterrent effect of those sentences on foreign criminals, if they know they're going to be taken home at a very early stage, where they're likely to be able to orchestrate an early release from their home prisons, that's not going to be
That's a significant point, actually. That's one that I hadn't considered.
Only if we let them back into the country.
Well, no, because they'd be free in their home country. So if there's no disincentive to commit crime, you kill someone on the streets of Britain, you're deported immediately, and then you can live a free life in whatever sub-Saharan Africa country you came from in the first place.
We need to tighten up who's coming into the country, who's going out of the country, and we desperately need some form of biometric ID in this country. It's ridiculous not having it.
All right, Peter Kirkham, thank you very much indeed, former Met Police Chief Inspector. So it looks like there's a few details to iron out with all of this, but the message of getting tough on crime is obviously one that will appeal.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of crime, let's cross to Calais. Because critics warn that the UK-France migrant deal is unlikely to stop further small boat crossings, illegal small boat crossings.
Yes, and joining us is GB News presenter Patrick Christys, who's been in Calais today and yesterday. Patrick, what on earth are you up to up there?
Yes, well, thank you very much. Now, regular viewers and listeners to my show will know that over the course of recent weeks, I have been in touch with various different human traffickers. We handed all of their information over to British authorities, but unfortunately, it didn't seem like a huge amount was being done about it. So what we decided to do was come to Calais, near Dunkirk, actually, and try to meet with several human traffickers, try to get their faces on camera, try to get some details about them and then hand it over to French police. Now, yesterday, we did manage to meet up with 3 human traffickers. We've got it all on camera, and I'm going to be playing that out to you live on my show, 9 to 11 p.m. But where you've kind of just caught me at the moment is I'm in the middle of trying to show the scale, actually, of this problem. So this is just one of the camps. There's like 5 or 6 camps along this road. So for the hundreds of millions of pounds that we've sent the French, OK, if you just look across that field and then where that tree line is there is the channel. And they haven't even put a fence up. So they've not even bothered to do anything there. There's a massive camp that way. Let me just show you a bit of this one now. And we can walk through. We've been having conversations with a few of the people here. So, hey guys. In this wooded area here is where the majority of people's tents are. So this is one of the bases that they will then use to, after that, then get to Britain. There is a mixture of people here. It's not just men. It's obviously mostly men, but there are women. There are some very young children as well. So it's important to highlight that. This is the wooded area where they camp most of the time, in here. And you can see a kind of cooking stove there and all of these tents here and a big station in here as well, which is, if you want to just come in there, I won't go back in there, Steve, but if you want to just walk in and show it, that's where their main cooking area is, in there. And I think it's important as well for viewers and listeners to know, the last time I was here, this camp was about half the size. And as you're going to see on my show later, the other camp is huge, right? So we did a report from here last time, and the next day the French police came and they raided that camp and they shut it down. Well, it's back now, and it's back with a vengeance, and it is literally twice the size. So, remarkable. But yes, the overarching point about why I'm here is that we wanted to meet the human traffickers, we wanted to get their faces on camera, we wanted to hand all that over to French police, and we have done that. We have managed to do that, and I will be showing you all about that on my show, 9 to 11 p.m. tonight.
You've handed over the evidence, have you?
Yeah, we've handed the evidence over. I mean, it's all on camera. It's all on film. And how it works is that they have foot soldiers. So you'll be talking to someone who is a human trafficker on your phone, and they will then have someone on the ground, possibly, dare I say it, even in this camp actually. And then you arrange to meet that person. And a couple of them were quite annoyed about that actually. It's quite good footage, but. Yeah, I think should we just keep having a wander through here, I suppose? This is... Look, you can see prams and children's clothes, and you know, it isn't all men. It isn't all men, obviously, but the majority of it is. So, look, we're going to be getting a load more footage from here now, and yeah, I'll be bringing my show to you live this evening, 9 to 11 p.m.
Excellent stuff. Well, I can't wait to see that footage of those people traffickers. Sounds like absolutely extraordinary stuff. Patrick Christie's live in Calais. Thanks indeed for joining us.
Yes, I imagine they're not going to be too happy about being caught out by Patrick and team.
But isn't it interesting? Because there's women and children, children's clothes there. Mm. Generally, they're not the kind of people that elbow their way onto the boats.
No.
So they might be stuck there in Calais, while the people who make it across are the ones who've elbowed the women and the children out of the way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to find out just how long the sort of average person in that camp has been there. He says it's doubled in since he went there last time. So I wonder, could some of those women and children be there for months and months and months and months and months while the younger men, you know, get in those dinghies? Very interesting.
Well, let's move on to some lighter news now, because it is just 2 weeks remaining in our current Great British Giveaway. Yes, your chance to win an incredible £54,321. Here are all the details you need.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you can win our biggest cash prize so far. £54,321 in tax-free cash is up for grabs in our summer Great British Giveaway. Cash to spend on anything you like. All of that cash could send you on a holiday, boost your savings, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. After the break, we're going to bring you the latest news from Epping, where anti-migrant hotel protests continued over the weekend into last night. We're going to be speaking to a local councillor to see what she has to say. It's after the break.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Is J.K. Rowling an extremist, radicalised TERF?
It's extraordinarily patronising to suggest that a woman who's created whole new magical worlds from her own imagination has to be radicalised by other people in order to form her own views. And that in itself I find extremely patronising. And, you know, a man may think that women don't have our own rich inner life and form our own political views, but we do, as Nana's just demonstrated. But secondly, there's nothing radical about believing that men and women are material realities, and sometimes in law, in policy, in life, that matters. That's her position. It's a very common, in fact, it's the majority position.
James, what is a woman?
But that's no.
I'm just wondering. Well, it's just a simple question because I'm just asking, what is a woman then? Because do you believe that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man?
Yes, because man and woman is gendered.
So what is a woman? So what is a woman?
Male and there is female, which is sex. This is the problem that I think a lot of you have. I'm a feminist. I believe in women's rights. I believe in women's safety. But the problem here is we are focusing on an absolute minority of people who have no, when you look at it in the round, who have no threat to women. Statistically,
you don't know that. Listen, you don't. The threat to women.
Sorry, not in the way that men are. This is the whole problem. Is that you saying man dressing up as a woman?
Yes.
That's despicable, Nana.
Well, it's the truth.
That is not the reality.
What else?
Nana, do you have any trans friends?
I have plenty of them.
Do you mix with trans people?
I have mixed with trans people. I mix with all people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 26 minutes past 1. Now, we've got some breaking news to bring you. A body has been found in the search for the missing runner. Yes, this is a story that has been developing over the last 3 days, and what we can tell you is that in the last few minutes, police say they have found a body in the search for Rachel Booth, the runner who went missing.
Yes, 38 years old, been missing since the early hours of Saturday morning, where she was filmed visiting a petrol station.
Well, of course, this is a developing story. People had been out looking. They'd been searching the local area, which, of course, was where Rachel Booth had been running in the very early hours of the morning. There was CCTV evidence that she'd stopped off to buy wine and to buy milk. But until just a few minutes ago, police did not know where Rachel Booth had ended up.
Yes, so a body has been found in the search for the missing runner. We'll bring you any confirmation of the identity as and when we get it. And, of course, if the police choose to speak to the press, we'll also be there as well on this. That's the 38-year-old Rachel Booth, missing since Saturday. Well, in other news, last night, more than 100 demonstrators, well, quite a few more than that, actually, gathered outside a suspected migrant hotel, a migrant hotel in Epping.
Sunday evening marked the 4th day of protest after an asylum seeker was charged with sexual assault, a charge he denies.
Yes, red and blue flares were launched, protesters chanted "Save our kids," and a number of arrests were made.
Well, we're joined now by the Conservative councillor for Epping West, Holly Whitbread. Holly, thanks for joining us now. This is yet another night of disorder outside a hotel. Some of it, of course, people legitimately protesting, but also some nasty elements popping up there too.
Yeah, there certainly were people there legitimately protesting. And as I said previously when I came on, the council absolutely want the migrant hotel to close. But I think as well, a lot of people who live in Epping, as I do, feel quite scared over the violent element of these protests. I think the main part of the protest went okay, but late last night we had riot police on our streets, helicopters flying in the air, and actually for many people it is really quite scary. And they don't want to see violence, they want to see this resolved in a democratic way.
Yes, because initially it did appear as though there were many women and children with placards saying things like "Save our kids," very worried about the potential for criminality to come from this particular migrant hotel. And then more and more people arrive, don't they? And we see again leftist organisations as well, anti-racism organisations coming in as well, bussing people in. Then things start to get worse. Then you see agitators from the right, the far right, coming in as well, and things continue to get worse and worse. I mean, what are you expecting in the coming days? Are you expecting this to continue and continue and continue until this hotel is shut down?
We have heard rumours of further protests, but more and more the local people I talk to, while they want to continue pressing the government to close this hotel, they've had enough of the protests because of the agitators who come and cause trouble. I mean, while there were a lot of genuine local people there yesterday, in between the women and children were former BNP councillors, members of the Homeland Party. So there are people who are not necessarily local people. They might be local, but they're trying to kind of really scare people and agitate the situation. So I would urge anyone locally not to get involved at these protests. Please let the government know how you feel. Write to your local MPs, sign the petition which the council set up to close the hotel, but really stay away from this violence.
Do you feel that as these protests have gone on day after day, has it got less local? Have people from other areas of the country sort of seen this now as a flashpoint for national issues rather than, as presumably it started off, more local concern?
I think that's certainly the case, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely support calls to call the close migrant hotels, not just here in Epping Forest, but across the UK. And I can see why people are so frustrated with the illegal immigration crisis in this country. But I think it certainly started as a very legitimate local protest, but there are people who are trying to exploit concerns. I was walking around a town fair yesterday, a car show, and so many people I spoke to, they said, look, Holly, we agree with you, we want the hotel closed, but we hate seeing this on our streets. There's been suggestions that Tommy Robinson is coming to Epping next week, and we don't want him. We don't want that politics in Epping. We want to call on the hotel to close. We've got legitimate concerns around the issues around the hotel, but we do not want this violent and thuggish behaviour.
Yeah, and I mean, are you getting anywhere with the Home Office?
The Home Office have been incredibly frustrating. It doesn't feel like they're listening to our concerns. When we first heard about the hotel reopening back in April, we straight away said, you know, this is not an appropriate location, please do not reopen it. And even after the two incidents, both the arson and the sexual assault, the Home Office still don't seem to be listening. So we are incredibly frustrated. Our local MPs, Alex Burkhart, who's also got a hotel in his constituency in Bobbingworth, and Neil Hudson have been pressing the government, and I believe they're trying to make representations in Parliament today. So, you know, we're trying to push through democratic means, and we just hope the Home Office will listen and close the hotel.
Yeah, and just lastly, Holly, of course there are migrant hotels across the country in many areas, and a lot of people will look at this and think, well, there's no perfect place for a migrant hotel. Why shouldn't Epping have one if other towns and villages and cities have them?
Well, what I would say is in Epping Forest District, we do have an unfair share of the burden. We've got two hotels within 2.5 miles of each other, which just isn't right. Also, the fact this hotel is all male. We don't know who is in the hotel. And it's very close to a school, really poor infrastructure around it as well. So, you know, I want to see hotels closed everywhere. You know, we need a more sustainable solution to this illegal immigration crisis. It needs sorting. The government needs to sort it out as they promised. But, you know, Epping certainly can't carry on having this burden upon them.
OK, well, Holly Whitbread, local councillor in Epping, thanks indeed for joining us and talking through that rather tense situation there in the local community.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been reported as well today and yesterday how the locations of these hotels are kept completely private secret from everyone by the Home Office. They're plonked in. Councils can't really object. No. And it's just, you just find out from word of mouth and from seeing them.
Incredibly
is that okay?
Undemocratic.
Disrespect.
Incredibly untransparent. Yeah, no, you can see why people are frustrated.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Still to come, yes, the search for the missing mother. Police have found a body in the search for Rachel Booth. We're going to bring you more detail on that after the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Well, good afternoon to you. Our top story: a body has been found in a lake in Cheshire by officers searching for the missing woman Rachel Booth. The mother of 3 from Barnton near Northwich was reported missing in the early hours of Saturday. The police say no formal identification has taken place, but they do not suspect any foul play. The government's confirmed it will abolish the water regulator Ofwat and replace it with separate bodies for England and Wales. Ministers are promising the biggest overhaul of the industry since privatisation, as they pledge to implement 88 recommendations made in a major review. Nigel Farage has promised to take back control of Britain's streets, courts and prisons in a speech setting out Reform UK's proposals for law and order. He's pledged to deport foreign offenders, to free up prison space and recruit 30,000 more police officers over 5 years. Gaza Civil Defence Agency says at least 93 people have been killed queuing for food there on Sunday. The Israeli military has launched this morning a ground and air attack on the densely populated city of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza after issuing fresh evacuation orders. And the FA says it's working with police to ensure those responsible for racist abuse aimed at Lioness Jess Carter are brought to justice. Carter's revealed she's been targeted throughout the Euros. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at the top of the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is a pretty unsettled start to the week. We have lots of heavy showers around and plenty of thunder mixed in with these. But towards the northwest, there's a bit more in the way of persistent heavy rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland and also into western Scotland. Various fronts around the UK at the moment, low pressure firmly in charge, and it's this that's bringing the pretty unsettled theme. Away from the far northwest and also parts of southwest England, where there's a lot of cloud and persistent rain. Elsewhere, there will be a mixture of sunny breaks and showers, but always worth bearing in mind those showers could pack quite a punch. They could be heavy, they could be thundery. In between the showers, though, if you get any sunshine, it is going to feel pretty warm, with temperatures in the low, perhaps even mid-20s for many of us. Then, as we go into this evening, not a huge amount changes, so still some heavy rain affecting western parts of Scotland. Totals could continue to build up as we go overnight, so some flooding is possible. Further south and east across Scotland, just a bit of showery rain, but some of this could still be heavy and thundery. A pretty damp end to the day across much of Northern Ireland and across many parts of particularly southern and western Wales and southwest England, but across the rest of England and Wales, well, it's the similar picture to much of today, really. Some sunny breaks perhaps, but also a few lingering showers. Overnight, the rain across parts of Scotland is going to feed a little bit further eastward, so many places turning quite cloudy with further outbreaks of rain. Also rain down the western side of Wales and into parts of southwest England. Clearer skies further east. This could allow for a bit of fog to develop in some places, but largely dry for eastern parts. But it's not going to last. As we go through tomorrow, the showery rain across western areas will feed a bit further eastward, so turning cloudier across eastern parts, and there will be a few outbreaks of rain around as well. Generally, the wet weather through tomorrow doesn't look like it will be as intense as what we're seeing through today, but nonetheless, there could be some heavier thundery bursts and temperatures on a similar level. See you later.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Access to the A723 in Motherwell is blocked from the M74 southbound junction, 6 off slip due to planned maintenance. In South Wales, the M4 westbound between junction 47 at Penlagar and junction 48 at Hendy is shut for carriageway maintenance with diversions in place. The A303 westbound between the junctions with the A350 and the A371 in Wiltshire remains closed due to a road traffic collision. There is a broken down vehicle on the A3 southbound between the M25 and the A247 in Surrey. And on the trains, there is major disruption at London Waterloo and delays through Eastleigh with South Western Railway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 38 minutes past 1. Now, Cheshire Police Force have said that a body has been found in the search for the missing Northwich woman.
Yes, Rachel Booth, 38 years old, was reported missing from the Barnton area on Saturday, the 19th of July, by her family.
Well, officers have been searching for the 38-year-old since her disappearance, and following extensive appeals and searches in the area, officers have now sadly recovered a body in a lake in Oakmere.
Well, we're joined by investigative expert Danny Brooke on this one. Danny, what do we know?
Well, unfortunately, as I joined, actually, I just heard the breaking news. So forgive me, I'm a little bit behind with this. Of course, it was a missing persons case, and now, of course, we've found a body, which is terribly sad. And I'd like to extend my condolences to Rachel's family. I think that's, you know, she's got children, she's a mother. It's terribly, terribly sad. But yeah, it wasn't expected, I don't think. I think you always like to hope that she'll be found safe and returned to her family. But unfortunately, in this case, a body has been found. I don't believe there's been any formal identification at this stage, though, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's right. As far as we know, we're still waiting on the police. But of course, a lot of comparisons were being drawn with the Nicola Bulley case, which did run on for weeks and weeks until there was a similar announcement by the police. I mean, this is something that I think a lot of people are surprised by how it could possibly have happened. I mean, what will the police have been doing to reach this point?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that the fact that, you know, she was reported and within 24 hours we had teams looking for her in waterways, I think that tells you that there was obviously some intelligence that was passed to the police for that search to happen. You know, these things take time to plan. They're not something that you can just quickly get together. This would have been a bit of an operational and logistical planning procedure. This isn't something that happens and that people are just, you know, in the station and can be brought out. These teams are highly trained in these skill sets. So I think there must have been some kind of intelligence that have led police there in the first place. I don't want to, give my opinion and speculate, because that would be unfair. That's not fair on Rachel's family. And I think that's something we need to keep in the forefront of our mind, is her family will be watching this, her family will be looking at this. So we do need to be careful what we're saying and where we're saying it, because it's not fair on them.
Yeah, because, I mean, as of an hour ago, I suppose, all we knew really was that this mother had gone missing and that she'd been seen on CCTV going into a service station, I believe it was, at about 3:50 in the morning. So not necessarily a normal time for someone to be out doing some shopping. I believe she was buying a bottle of wine and some milk or whatever. So they had CCTV there. And now, just a few hours later, a body recovered. Again, we don't have any formal identification, but of course we'll bring that to our viewers and listeners when we do hear. But they did say that they're not believed to be any suspicious circumstances. So, I mean, we're not being told a lot yet.
No, and obviously it's a live investigation, so the police will have a lot more intelligence and a lot more information that they don't need at this stage to release to the public, and I think that's understandable in a live investigation. I wasn't aware that they didn't suspect foul play, so there was obviously a lot of intelligence there. But again, they wouldn't say that, I don't believe, without being certain about that. You know, we've learned from mistakes over the years where things have been said and then we've had to backtrack and apologies have had to be made, and it doesn't make it any easier for those that are suffering at this time. So for them to say that must tell us that they have information that they believe that to be true.
Now, compared to previous investigations that you'll be familiar with, I mean, is this quite a rapid one? I mean, the police seem to have, if indeed the search is now over, it does seem to have concluded really quite efficiently. How much longer would we have to wait going by previous standards of investigations before we hear perhaps something more comprehensive from the police on this?
I mean, again, every investigation is different. I will say I agree with you that I thought it was very quick, that it got to the press that quick, you know, from the point of going missing to being reported to the point the press were reporting on it. I think that tells you that there must have been some urgency. These things take up a tight time, and there's procedures that have to be followed for it to get to that stage. And it was very quick at the point the press were reporting on it. And again, the point from the press reporting on it to go into the waterways very, very quickly. For more information, again, that will be up to the senior investigating officer, and at the point that he or she believes that it's the right time to let the public know. If they choose to do that, it's an investigation. If they choose to let people know, that's on them, and they will have reasons to do that. If they believe that there could be somebody else involved later down the line, then they may give us more information. But I think we have to just be really mindful that we don't need to know everything as the members of the public, and the police are doing a great job. Cheshire Constabulary have a very good reputation, and they have some great officers there that will be doing their very best to ensure that the family are kept updated, and they will let us as the members of the public know as and when and if we need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there has been criticism in the past, hasn't there, with previous cases that the police have released too much personal information that has appeared quite judgmental to some people. Danny Brooke, thank you very much indeed, investigative expert there. On that breaking news that a body has been found in the search for the missing runner, 38-year-old Rachel Booth. We'll bring you more as and when we get it.
But in the meantime, if you're in search for some more holiday sunshine, perhaps you're jetting off over the course of this month or next, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. It's hot and sunny across the vast majority of the Mediterranean at the moment. 1 or 2 showers in the north, and fairly breezy across the Canary Islands and also Madeira. This northeasterly wind is bringing in a bit more in the way of cloud as well. Hot and sunny though for Iberia, most of Italy as well. Just 1 or 2 showers up towards Croatia and Slovenia. But for Greece and Turkey, hot and sunny, temperatures into the mid-30s. So do remember that sunscreen. And as we go through the next few days, it stays very similar.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Do stay with us. Lots more coming up. Indeed, it's been revealed that a so-called queer dance artist who attended a very expensive private school was behind a pro-Palestine protest at the Royal Opera House.
We'll have more on that.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sunday mornings from 9:30.
She left office 35 years ago, which seems incredible.
God, that makes me feel really old. I remember being at school when she was deposed.
Oh, that makes me feel really old, because I was way beyond school.
Well, I was 47 yesterday, so...
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Carry on.
Well, so there are 3 generations that have grown up that weren't alive when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. And there are so many myths that have built up about her that... and part of the reason I wrote it was because my personal trainer, I broke my hip 2 years ago.
Yes.
So I had to get a personal trainer to the rehab. And he's 25, or was then. And when he found out what I did for a living, he said, well, Margaret Thatcher, I've heard of her, but who was she? What did she do? He didn't even know she'd been Prime Minister. And I was like slightly horrified by this. So this is really aimed at those generations. You can't tell every aspect of her life in a book that size, but it really is an introduction to her. And the first sentence says, if you've read Charles Moore's 3-volume biography of her, please stop here. This book is not for you.
No.
So
it's an
it covers most of the
introduction to her.
Things.
And by the way, maybe that revelation by your PT does ask questions about the national curriculum and history teaching. They should do a section, shouldn't they, on our first female Prime Minister, arguably. But what's the challenge then when you're writing somebody's life up? I mean, and what a life she led.
Well, I found out that it's much more difficult to write a short book than a long book, because you really do have to be concise. I was told I had 30,000 words. I said, well, that's a pamphlet, not a book. So I stretched it to 45,000. But normally a biography would be 120, 150,000 words. So it really was quite a challenge to condense it all. And what do you leave out? I mean, I wasn't going to do a chapter on Northern Ireland, but as I was writing it, I thought, no, you can't do that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 to 2. Now, a pro-Palestine protester who attended a very expensive private school was behind the protest at the Royal Opera House over the weekend.
Yes, he caused quite the scene. From the footage, one of the cast members, this chap, there he is, at the back, unfurled a Palestinian flag. Then an offstage manager tried to grapple with him, that we can see. There we go, tried to grapple with him, but he held his ground.
Well, it comes after a number of recent controversies about onstage protests or indeed support for Palestine, including the Glastonbury set of the band Bob Vylan.
Now, this story has kept going by the detail that the newspapers have found about how this protester, what's he called, a queer dance artist who took part in this particular play at the Royal Opera House, attended a £48,000 a year school. Now, I wonder why the newspaper thought they'd share that detail with us, Tom.
I don't know, because does going to a certain school determine your policy? I think it was an arts school that the most expensive, that you could board at that school.
Tring Park School for the Performing Arts in Hertfordshire, which charges up to £16,000 per term for boarding. Now, I don't know if he boarded or not.
That's a very expensive school. So, yeah, I suppose he could have been a boarder. He might not. He might have been a day pupil. But I think people do think that sometimes there is a contrast or something to be highlighted between people who go to expensive schools and present left-wing politics.
Yes, there are often lots of Marxists who happen to have gone to Eton.
Yeah, although that being said, I mean, protesting in favour of Palestine doesn't necessarily mean that you're left-wing or right-wing. I mean, no,
absolutely not.
It's quite a traditional...
But doing this type of thing, I think the £48,000 a year school is relevant, insofar as this is an extremely entitled thing to do, and it's someone who's not worried about losing his job.
Oh, that is an interesting point, actually.
So
yeah, I hadn't considered
the average person wouldn't be able to risk their job like this by disrupting their own performance in such a way. So I'm thinking that he knows, now I don't know the man, but I'm thinking from this type of behaviour, he knows that he's going to be all right.
You do see
he's
that
going to be all right if he gets the sack.
Protesters, don't you? I mean, it tends to be climate protesters, either they're retired, so there's nothing to lose, or they've got a triple-barrelled surname, went to a very nice school and don't really need to worry about income. And the most egregious example of that was when Extinction Rebellion a few years ago tried to stop a commuter tube train at something like 6 in the morning, when it was full of working-class people going to work, going to their jobs, and some have-a-go Henry stood on top of it, and they ended up pulling him off the top of that train to
that was
to
an
actually then
eye-opener,
go to
wasn't
work.
it?
And that was just such an example of entitlement versus people who actually just wanted to go off and do their job. I think it's slightly different here because the Royal Opera House, the people that are in the audience of that aren't necessarily going to be the same sort of sympathetic people as people who are just trying to go to work. I mean, everyone in that building is likely from a certain background.
Yeah, I mean, this chap, obviously, he describes himself as queer. His pronouns are they, them. OK, fine. He posts lots of Instagram photos of himself in sort of seductive positions. Perhaps maybe there's a little bit of narcissism going on here.
Oh, anyone with an Instagram account has a bit of narcissism. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're in performing arts.
Yeah, I mean, the venue, the Royal Opera House, has said the display of the flag was a spontaneous and unauthorised action by the artist. It was not approved by the Royal Ballet and Opera and is not in line with our commitment to political impartiality. So presumably he's going to face some consequences for this.
Well, I think the difficulty here is that the Royal Opera House receives government funding and taxpayer funding. And so if it's going to be presenting itself as aligned to a particular political cause in whichever direction, that means that it's somewhat jeopardised with regard to its taxpayer funding.
Well, yes, exactly. And I mean, I think I'm just sick of these types of people, and usually they are people like this, what's his name, Daniel Perry. A lot of them have gone to very nice schools and had very nice educations and things, deciding that their cause is worth disrupting everyone else's lives for. It's the same with Just Stop Oil, same with Extinction Rebellion, same with all these different groups, right? My voice deserves to be heard, and I don't care who I disrupt. That sort of attitude irritates me.
But I do think that the Palestine cause isn't necessarily the same as any left-wing cause, because you do get a lot of the strain of sort of the Arabist Toryism in this country. It's an interesting strain of sort of, it's a bit of the attitude of the Foreign Office sometimes, it's a bit of the traditional sort of Lawrence of Arabia approach to the Middle East. It's a big strain in well-to-do opinion as well as the traditional.
Well, yes, I mean, I don't know, Daniel Perry may or may not be a professional activist. I don't know. But anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Well, lots more to come up. Yes, we're going to be checking in on Reform UK's plans to crack down on crime. Some of the worst criminals.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, this week has got off to a pretty unsettled, messy start, and it's all due to low pressure. Low pressure firmly in charge across the country at the moment, which is why we're seeing a fair bit of rain, plenty of showers, and why we've had quite a bit of thunder as well. There will be a bit more thunder to come as we go through the end of the day, particularly across parts of England. Lots of heavy thundery downpours around the Pennines, but they'll gradually ease. However, across parts of Scotland, even Northern Ireland and Wales and southwest England, quite a cloudy, wet night, but across western Scotland, that's where we're going to see the heaviest rain, the highest totals, and the greatest risk of some flooding and other impacts. Through the night, it's not going to be particularly chilly. Most places seeing temperatures holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Across some eastern parts of England, where we get clear skies, there could be a few pockets of mist and fog developing, however. Taking a look first thing tomorrow morning, and it's a cloudy start across much of Scotland, perhaps the tip of Aberdeen, seeing a bit of bright sunny weather. But do watch out for that heavier rain overnight across western parts of Scotland. Still pretty damp as we start the day tomorrow. A little bit drier across Northern Ireland, some brighter breaks perhaps, but still cloudy and wet down the western side of England and into Wales. The best chance of any sunshine will be early on across eastern parts of England, parts of Lincolnshire and into East Anglia. But even here, as we go through the day, the cloud is going to spread its way in, and so sunshine's really going to be at a premium tomorrow. That being said, the rain's not looking quite as intense, not quite as heavy, less likely to be thundery, but the showers, there will be plenty of them, and they could bring the odd rumble of thunder, particularly towards eastern parts in the afternoon. Temperatures are going to be similar to today, so most places getting into the low to mid-20s, not feeling too bad if you get any sunshine. More showery bursts of rain to come as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, particularly down the eastern side of England and Scotland. That's where they will be heaviest. And then a drier trend as we go towards the end of the week, but there will still be a bit of rain around here and there. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle to Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Monday, the 21st of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
That Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years.
Big promises from Nigel Farage with his new tough-on-crime policies. Yes, the Reform Party will end the early release of sex offenders and violent criminals, build 30,000 new prison places, and even send some of the worst offenders to prisons in El Salvador. Well, that's if they can find all the money.
And a new poll claims that Labour's plans to create an official definition of Islamophobia could hand Reform a 100-seat majority at the next election. This, of course, comes amid fears that the definition of Islamophobia could prevent politicians speaking up about many issues, including Pakistani grooming gangs.
Elsewhere, the Department for Work and Pensions claims that people retiring in the year 2050 will be worse off than pensioners today unless action is taken to boost retirement savings. This comes as the government announces a fresh review into the state pension age.
And yes, the breaking news this hour. A body has been found in the hunt for missing mum Rachel Booth, who was last seen in the early hours of Saturday morning.
And of course, that state pension age news. Yes, they're retiring in 2050. That could be a lot worse off for you than retiring today. What do you make of that?
Well, yes, state pension age, it looks like the only way it's going is up.
Yeah.
Let's be frank.
But also, let's be frank, isn't this an inevitable consequence of having the triple lock structure that raises the pension age, that raises the pension amount being spent by more than the amount the economy is growing?
Well, yes. But the question of the state pension age, should it be across the board? Because this is the problem. People get in touch and they say it's all well and good for people who work office jobs to say, oh, yeah, we can work a few more years, no problem. But then people who do back-breaking work, you know, you're working on a building site, you're doing something that takes your body, something like hairdressing when you're on your feet all the time, and you can get aches and pains that prevent you from working in a decent way. Also, the question of, you know, it's difficult already for people beyond middle age to sometimes get a job. There's a lot of ageism in the recruitment process. There's a lot of employers who just want the youngest.
Yeah.
Or want someone who's young and easily trainable at that age. It's difficult for people, I think.
But if we believe, as I think I do, that medical science is advancing every single year, is it not the case that we can just say, well, someone who is 60 years old now Well, effectively, we can just treat that individual like they're 50 years old in a couple of decades' time, because their biological age might be 10 years younger, and in which case it's just the same system we have now.
Depends on person, though, doesn't it, really? You line up 6 60-year-olds, they're going to have all sorts of different ailments. Some of them will be fit as a fiddle, and some of them will have creaking bones and joints.
Absolutely, but my argument is that if medical science does do its miraculous thing, and it does seem that we've had a number of huge medical advances in
People
just the
say,
last
let's wait for
5
that
years.
first.
But of course, I mean, the pension age isn't changing today. It might be in a couple of decades' time, by which time perhaps it's possible, perhaps it's probable.
You think a couple of decades' time?
Perhaps.
I thought they'd be working on this a little sooner than that.
Well, no.
Why are they considering it now already?
I mean, when it comes to financing government spending, you have to have long-term projections for things.
Yeah,
but
you need to make a decision.
They're all based on nonsense.
You need to make a decision. You know, is it going to be 67 for the next 10 years, or is it going to go up to 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73?
But if a 70-year-old in 20 years' time is as fit as a 60-year-old is today, then surely that makes sense.
Yeah, well, a lot of people will be watching this, listening and thinking, you don't know what it's like, you youngsters, relative youngsters.
Sorry, I'm the one with the stake in this. This isn't about people who are retiring now. It's my pension age we're talking about.
You're already saying that you're not going to have a state pension.
I know.
So,
this is true. This is true. If anything, this is a boon to me. Because I'm going to get a state pension. Amazing.
A lot of people, you know, with their heads in their hands, thinking, oh no, we're going to have to put up with Tom till he's 78. 78.
Look, I accepted just a long time ago that I am going to be of the generation that doesn't get a state pension because of the way that the finances are going. I mean, this country is absolutely bankrupt, and there will be some sort of change to the pension system by the time I'm retiring. I'm certain of it.
People need to make more investments for themselves, I think, to try and secure their future. That's for sure. Private pensions, stocks and shares, cash ISAs, whatever it is, if we still have cash ISAs by then. But there you go, gbnews.com/your say. Do you think it's unreasonable to want to have another look at the state pension age? Let us know. But let's get to the headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon to you. Our top story, a body's been found in the search for a woman who went missing in Cheshire over the weekend. The mother of 3, Rachel Booth, from Barnton near Northwich, was reported missing in the early hours of Saturday. She was last seen at a petrol station on CCTV before she bought milk and wine. Police say a body has been found in a lake near a popular beauty spot in the Oakmere area of Delamere, and there are not believed to be any suspicious circumstances. The water regulator Ofwat will be abolished as part of an overhaul of a broken system that failed customers and the environment. That's according to a report commissioned by the government following years of sewage spills, soaring bills and underinvestment. Ofwat will be replaced by separate bodies in England and Wales, and a new ombudsman with legal powers will be created. It will be able to prevent customers being ripped off. That's the hope of the Environment Secretary, Steve Reid, who says he's taking action to prevent abuses of the past.
That the water industry in this country is broken. Our rivers, lakes and seas are polluted with record levels of sewage. Water pipes have been left to crumble into disrepair. Soaring water bills are straining family finances. Ofwat has failed to protect customers from water companies' mismanagement of their hard-earned money. So today, I can announce that the Labour government will abolish Ofwat.
Nigel Farage has promised to halve crime in Britain if Reform UK gets into power. He's been setting out his party's proposals on law and order at a speech in London, including greater use of stop and search and putting knife arches in train stations and other transport hubs. Mr Farage says under reform, every shoplifting offence would be prosecuted and every mobile phone theft investigated. He's pledged to recruit 30,000 more police officers over 5 years and says we are facing nothing short of societal collapse in parts of the country.
That Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years of a Reform government. We will take back control of our streets. We will take back control of our courts, of our prisons. And if you're a criminal, I am putting you on notice today that from 2029, or whenever that may be, either you obey the law or you will face very serious justice.
At least 19 people have been killed and 164 injured after a military jet crashed into a school campus in the capital of Bangladesh. Around 164 others have been injured in the incident at the Milestone School and College in the northern suburb of Uttara. The Bangladeshi Armed Forces have confirmed the jet experienced a mechanical fault after taking off for a training exercise. Students that attend the school range in age between 4 and 18 years old. Russia's confirmed that a fresh wave of drone and missile strikes hit Ukraine overnight. Officials in Kyiv say one person was killed and another 7 wounded after the strikes caused multiple fires across the capital. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 426 drones and 24 missiles, although only 23 of the projectiles hit their targets. The FA is in contact with the police after Lioness Jess Carter revealed she's experienced racist abuse throughout the Euros. A team statement has said, "We stand with Jess and all Lionesses, past and present, who have suffered racism." And the England team say they will not be taking the knee ahead of Tuesday's semi-final against Italy, saying it's clear football needs to find another way to tackle racism. And live football will be made available on prescription to help alleviate symptoms of depression. The plans will see patients at surgeries in Gloucestershire given the chance to attend games at the National League side Forest Green Rovers. The initiative, part of a move by the GP turned MP, Dr Simon Ofer, who's pioneered other social prescribing to patients with mild depression instead of medication. Comedy and gardening have previously been used. There's your headlines. I'll be back with more at 2:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.34 and €1.15. The price of gold, £2,512.86 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 trading at 8,983 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 minutes past 2, and the Reform Party leader Nigel Farage has announced his party's new plan to get tough on crime.
Yes, it was a major speech this morning where Mr Farage vowed to take back control of our streets, our courts, our prisons, as he pledged to never allow the early release of violent criminals and sex offenders from prisons, even proposing to send some of the most serious criminals to third countries like El Salvador.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, was at that speech, joins us now. Christopher, a big play from Nigel Farage, but critics are asking, goodness me, this sounds expensive.
Yeah, exactly the right question to ask, Tom, of course. And yes, it is expensive. Half crime in the first 5 years of a reform UK government, so that's by 2034 or so. They want to have 30,000 more police officers, some ex-armed forces veterans. A 6-week campaign on law and order starts right now with Reform UK, running all through August, when MPs and ministers are their feet up on their beaches in the south of France, wherever they go on holiday. Reform UK will be out there campaigning on law and order. Sarah Pochin, the MP for Runcorn, she's leading the way. Layla Cunningham, a Reform UK councillor for Westminster, she's also taking charge of this. The cost, that's a question I asked Nigel Farage. Will it all be raised simply by making cuts, not by taxes? He said yes, no tax increases. £17.4 billion pounds, they said to us, all raised from cutting money spent on the HS2, the high-speed rail line between London, Birmingham and maybe further north than that, and also on net zero measures, which of course is detested by those on the right of politics. One of the other big headline-grabbing areas in this wide-ranging speech from Nigel Farage is to deport foreign prisoners, around 10,000 of them in our jails. They're going to go overseas. Here's what he told us earlier.
And there are 10,400 foreign prisoners in our prisons, has been mentioned on this platform already. They will be deported back to their home countries. And I think I'm in conversation with Eddie Rama from Albania, and I think he's rather agreed that he will take back all of the Albanian prisoners in this country, which is rather a good thing. We can send some of our worst violent criminals overseas to serve their terms, then yes. And if that means that Ian Huntley goes to El Salvador, well, our attitude is so be it.
Nigel Farage there with his plans how to clear up more jail space. He's planning what they called Nightingale prisons, built very rapidly by, I guess, the armed forces, which will then be used to house criminals in space where to try and free up space and not use police cells, pop-up custody suites. Cracking down on stolen foreign phones. He told us, stolen mobile phones, he told us how a mobile phone had been taken by a family member, taken to Buckingham. They could see it there using one of the apps you can get on a phone, but the police wouldn't go and get it. He says there's wide-ranging concern about lawlessness in our country. Even though figures do show a general decline in numbers on crimes committed, there's a feeling out there, I think, that it is getting more lawless. Now, the other parties have been responding to this. We've got responses here from the Conservatives. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, he tells us that Nigel Farage is writing his own crime fiction, that their document, they say, is unfunded. It's the same Nigel Farage who calls immigration enforcement divisive. He wants an amnesty for illegal migrants who've been integrated, he says, and that deportation is a political impossibility. And Ellie Reeves, she's the Labour Party chair, she says that Nigel Farage is repeatedly trying to block tough measures to make their streets safer. They're going to bring in 13,000 more neighbourhood police, and they do point out, rightly I think, that Reform UK did vote against some measures on the crime and policing bill. So a battle starting this summer over the safety of our streets.
Thank you very much, Christopher Hope there, our political editor, live from Westminster. I mean, Chris saying rightly that by some statistics you can see that there's been a drop in some crime, but I really do think it depends which statistics you look at and for which specific crimes. And I think it was only the other week that there was a report done about the Metropolitan Police, how so many crimes are just totally unrecorded. People aren't bothering to report crimes because they assume that the police won't chase up on them.
It's the things like the phone thefts and the bike thefts and the shoplifting and those things that people...
Taking drugs on the streets, light harassment.
Might report, some people might not report. I do take Chris's point, though. The murder rate has actually gone down, and that's something you can definitely measure because you know how many people have been killed, generally.
Yeah.
That's not something that people don't report.
Yep, just a lot of other things, I fear, have gone up. Anyway, joining us now is former young offender and rehabilitation expert Ads Khan. Ads, are you listening to Christopher there, sort of giving an overview of what's been heard? Hi. Getting rid of foreign criminals, so deporting foreign criminals, that would free up some space for more rehabilitation, wouldn't it?
Well, I like the way you've put that. Firstly, good afternoon. Look, prison overcrowding is an issue, and we find ourselves in the same situation what the last government promised and the government before that and the government before that, but nobody seems to have done anything about it. And we need better systems, a place that corrects behaviour, not just contains it. Right now, we're spending billions to store people and treating them and not treating the problems they've got. If somebody goes to prison, right, who's a drug addict, the prisoner's a drug addict, and he comes out as a drug addict, I mean, what chance has he got for reform and rehabilitation? Yes, we need to be tough on crime, but we also need to be tough on the causes of crime too.
Soundbite, and something that I think Tony Blair, when he introduced that soundbite, did actually sort of follow through on. I mean, crime did fall over those years, but it was the two halves of that equation, and I wonder if at the moment the government is sort of doing neither half of that equation.
Well, I think within the last 10, 15 years, sentencing's doubled. But the issue that we've got is that punishment without purpose is a missed opportunity. Yes, serious offenders must be held accountable. But if all we do is lock people up and throw away the key, we're not protecting the public. We're just storing problems and delaying solutions. I'm not saying don't punish. I'm not saying, Do
you think there's a difference between types of crime here? I mean, if someone's been involved in a violent assault, Should we treat that differently than someone who perhaps has a substance abuse problem or has been involved in sort of petty shoplifting? I mean, are some people more rehabilitable than others?
Yes, they are. But what you'll find is that strangely, it's the people who actually do these small crimes or start doing the small crimes that are actually in and out of the system a lot more than the people that are actually doing the big, hefty crimes. And that's definitely something that I witnessed and saw whilst I was in prison. I mean, you know, people that were stealing cars, and then it went from stealing cars to doing robberies. From there, it went to doing GBH, and from there, it went from selling drugs. And it was just like revolving cycle that was going, because there was an effort put on reform and rehabilitation. And, you know, listen, if building more prisons reduced reoffending, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of the public just want to see people behind bars for longer, though. I mean, they do want rehabilitation, but they also want to feel just safe on their streets, don't they? Adscom, I'll have to leave it there. Former young offender and rehabilitation expert, really appreciate your insight on this one, because, I mean, I don't know if you saw the latest, small boat migrant sentenced to just 14 months in prison. He's already been in custody for a year, so he'll be out very soon, for sexually assaulting an extremely vulnerable teenage girl in a broad daylight attack. Yeah. 14 months in prison. That girl is going to be terrified for God knows how many years.
I do think people rightly look at the difference between sentences handed down sometimes to people for what they tweet versus for people who carry out actual assaults on people in the country, and think, we've got this sentencing thing completely muddled up in this country.
I mean, he won't be up for deportation on that basis, surely, because it's not a long enough sentence. He's been given a 5-year restraining order, 14 months in prison, of which he's already served technically, because he's been in custody.
Yeah.
Sexually assaulting a very childlike, vulnerable teenager. I mean, it's just... why should our system even bother trying to rehabilitate someone like that who shouldn't even be here?
Well, it seems hardwired into some people. But this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's programme, including the government warnings that people retiring in 2050 will be worse off than pensioners today unless action is taken to boost those retirement savings.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 23 minutes past 2. Now, the government has confirmed it will abolish the water regulator Ofwat and replace it with separate bodies for England and Wales.
Yes, they're promising this is the biggest overhaul of the industry since privatisation.
Well, joining us now is our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, is this reorganisation as big as the government wants us to think?
Well, they're calling it a revolution. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to do the job, but we're here in Fulham, next to the River Thames, where the Environment Secretary made this announcement a bit earlier. Now, I had a one-on-one interview with him for GB News. Let's have a look at what he had to say. Reid, you've said that you're furious. Voters are absolutely furious about the state of water. Their bills are rocketing. You're talking about a water revolution, but is it really? I mean, when are people actually going to see any difference, any real difference?
Well, the water system is completely broken. We've got, as you were saying, we've got record levels of pollution in our rivers, lakes and seas, but we've also got record bill hikes. So customers feel like they're paying more and getting less. So what this government is doing is leading a complete overhaul of the entire water sector. And that is why I'm calling it a revolution. There are 3 building blocks to that change. The first is resetting the system, bringing in tougher criminal sentences for water bosses who are breaking the law over water pollution, banning the payment of unfair multi-million-pound bonuses to those individuals, but also rebuilding the system by bringing in the biggest amount of private sector investment in history to upgrade those broken pipes that are under our feet and under our rivers. £104 billion that allows me to say that over 5 years we can cut water pollution in half. Now, that money is already being spent. It started to be spent in April this year, so change is already happening, and people will start to see that as we move forward through the coming months and years. And by changing the rules that govern water companies, which is what today's announcements were about, that becomes the third building block for change, because it means that tougher regulations with a tough new regulator, a super regulator, bringing together 4 different regulators who existed in the past, they will be able to make sure that the water companies are investing properly in keeping the pipes in a good state of repair, so we never again have the level of disrepair that led to those massive bill rises that people were forced to pay last year.
Well, you're toughening up the regulator, but the fact is, you said yourself that these water companies have been profiting from British people. 70% of water is in foreign ownership. The shareholders don't care about sewage in our rivers, about leaking pipes. They have been taking us for a ride, haven't they? What's to say that they're not going to carry on doing that, because you haven't looked at nationalising at all?
Well, the problem is the previous government let the water companies get away with that. They weakened regulation. They said they wanted it to be light touch. That was a deliberate policy. Well, actually, we needed to get a tight grip on what was going on, and they stripped people out of the regulators, so there was no longer people around to carry out the enforcement work. So by tightening regulation and making sure that they've got the resources they need, by making the polluter pay for those additional resources in the regulators, we can get tough on what the water companies are doing. But when it comes to nationalisation, the problem there would be it would cost 100 billion, with a B, pounds of public money to pay to buy out the existing owners. That would mean taking money out of the National Health Service, out of education, and handing it to the owners of the companies who have polluted our waterways in the first place. Secondly, it would take years to unpick the current model of ownership, endless legal wrangles, and during that time there would be no investment in upgrading our sewage pipes. So we'd see a rising level of pollution in our waterways, and we would see no benefit to customers from lowering the bills, because the damage would get worse and bills would have to go up even higher. None of it makes any sense.
But the Lib Dems are urging some sort of part nationalisation reform. Nigel Farage, too. Tim Farron said this morning it was really stupid to privatise water in the first place. England and Wales, the only countries in the world where water and sewage completely nationalised. There's a reason. It's not working, is it?
The problem is that to unpick privatisation, to nationalise the water companies, you'd have to spend £100 billion of taxpayers' money handing it to the people who own the water companies that are carrying out the pollution.
Some part public-private thing, such as suggested by Reform or the Lib Dems.
What Nigel Farage has suggested, so if full nationalisation costs £100 billion, half nationalisation would cost £50 billion. Where's he going to get that £50 billion from? He's refused to tell us. Now, Nigel Farage has already made £80 billion of unfunded spending commitments. If you add this additional £50 billion, that comes to £130 billion. That's twice as much as Liz Truss committed to when she crashed the economy, sent everybody's mortgages and rents spiralling, and sent prices in the shops skyrocketing. So Nigel Farage is looking back at what Liz Truss did and wants to give us twice the amount of damage. I don't think the public wants to see that.
But you've got a problem, haven't you? Because you're talking about a decade of national renewal. All the changes you're making are going to take a long time. You are plunging in the polls. Nigel Farage, for all you say none of this is funded, has a way of connecting with people. Are you going to be able to deliver in time for the next election to make a difference, not just with water, but across a whole load of policy areas? Because otherwise you're in trouble.
Well, we'll see what happens at the next general election in 4 years' time. What I'm saying today is we've secured £104 billion of private sector investment that started to be spent in April of this year, so it's being spent now, and that will lead to reductions in sewage year on year until over 5 years we've cut sewage pollution in half. It also means that we'll be maintaining the sewage and water pipes in a better state of repair, so there's no longer the need for the huge bill rises that happened because the previous government didn't do what I'm now doing. So by the time we get to the next election, people will see more moderate bill increases and sewage in our waterways clearing up. They can take a decision based on us doing what we've said we will do.
Will you state your job on that?
Well, I'm going to be held to account for my job. I think politicians come out and we say we're going to do things. Frankly, my job should be on the line if I don't meet my promises. So I'm absolutely committed to making this work. That's why I'm taking such big, bold measures today to completely overhaul the system for the first time in a generation.
Steve Reed, thank you very much for talking to us on GBNews. Thank you. So change is already happening, says the Environment Secretary, ruling out nationalisation, pouring scorn on Nigel Farage's spending plans, saying that he's going to do twice the amount of damage that Liz Truss has done with these unfunded spending plans, and saying that this tough new regulator will make a big difference and bills will start to stabilise. But Fergal Sharkey, a water campaigner, thinks that this is nowhere near enough, says the Environment Secretary should resign, and surfers against sewage describe all this as lipstick on a pig.
Right, OK, to the point. Well, Catherine Forster, thank you very much for joining us from Fulham there and that interview with Steve Reed. But in other news, the Department for Work and Pensions says that OAPs in 2050 will actually be worse off than today's pensioners. That's because, according to the DWP, almost half of working-age adults are putting no money at all aside for their retirement. And now it looks like Labour are considering raising that retirement age. What do you have to say about that one?
Well, let's speak now to the head of lifestyle economics at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Christopher Snowdon. Christopher, are people really going to be worse off by 2050 if they retire? I mean, I thought the state pension was going up every year.
Well, it is, of course, with the triple lock, and there's no end in sight for that. I'm a bit suspicious of the claim. It's a fairly marginal difference anyway. This is maybe £800 difference. But in the same press release, the government rightly points out that since they introduced auto-enrolment for workplace pensions, the number of people who are using a workplace or have a workplace pension has risen from 55% to 88%. So we need to be mindful that when they talk about working age adults, it doesn't necessarily mean people who are actually in work. Of course, we have a huge number of people now on various ad work benefits. So naturally, they're not putting any money into a pension. It's probably true to say more people should be saving for retirement, but there are fairly obvious reasons why a lot of people are not doing that. Firstly, you haven't got a job. Secondly, you're maybe in low pay. You're a student, perhaps. But mainly, it's not necessarily the case that everybody should be saving for a pension. If you're in your 20s, it's quite likely that you would be better off saving for a deposit on a house. And there are other forms of savings in addition to having a pension, a house obviously being one of them. You can then ultimately sell that when you retire. So I don't think it's a crisis we're looking at here. And I'm not quite sure what the government thinks it can do about it anyway.
What about the state pension age? Because apparently Labour are going to open this can of worms and they are going to consider raising it. Currently 66, heading towards 67, potentially further. Do you think that's an inevitability?
I would, given the state of the public finances and the fact that we have an ageing population, I think it's nailed on in this country and in many other countries. But there is a limit to, realistically, for a lot of people in physical jobs in particular, how long you can expect people to keep working for. I don't think it can go up and up and up indefinitely, but I'm sure the government will be quite comfortable with putting up to 70 at some point.
Well, I suppose the question is, at what point do we live longer, healthier lives? I mean, sure, if we're living longer and are getting old at the same rate, then it sounds like it's cruel to keep people in work until they're 70. But if we're actually ageing at a less fast rate, if new technology comes along that means if we're 70 years old, we actually feel like a 60-year-old today might feel, then that becomes perhaps less controversial.
Yeah, I think that's right. But nevertheless, the ageing process cannot be indefinitely postponed. And if you're doing a hard physical job, then you really will not want to be working past the age of 65. And there are fewer and fewer people in those kind of jobs, but most people are doing relatively sedentary work. But this is not really the long-term solution. And there's an irony here, of course, about the government lecturing people about putting money away for retirement when the government itself is in £2.7 trillion of debt. It's going to borrow another £150 billion this year. We need to get the public finances in order, otherwise we're not going to have much of a country by 2050. And part of fixing that actually is to get rid of the triple lock on pensions.
Well, yes, it would be nice if the government led by example. Christopher Snowdon, thank you very much indeed, Head of Lifestyle Economics at the Institute of Economic Affairs. Lots of people are getting in touch to say, it's hard manual graft. People literally can't work beyond a certain limit. However, I think even if you told you're fighting fit, I mean, back-breaking work is not the same as, being a columnist for a newspaper. No, but the current retirement age does sound like back-breaking. I mean, if you're 66, you're going to be pretty tough going. Absolutely. We should say that the Prime Minister is taking questions from the Liaison Committee. This is cross-questioning of the Prime Minister live in Westminster. A bit like Prime Minister's questions, but MPs can answer back.
Including checks on landlords to do things like electricity safety checks as well. So yes, I'm confident that it's the right law. Yes, I think it is enforceable and will be enforced. But I don't think in any of these fields to do with either housing or poverty there's one silver bullet that solves all the problems.
Because one of the issues, Prime Minister, you may be aware, is that a number of landlords, including local authorities, are saying that they're struggling in terms of the funding and enforcement to carry out those necessary checks. We've heard that the courts, we know that there's a backlog in the courts in terms of residents bringing forward those cases. So just coming back to that enforceability, Prime Minister, as a lawyer, for anything to be enforceable, it has to have the right protection around it. So just wanting to know if there's been discussions in that interdepartmental discussions to make sure that these cases are escalated when tenants bring them before the courts?
Yes, there have been, and one of the ways in which I've set up the work of government is to have key ministers on key commitments reporting in to me for a stocktake on a regular basis, where we go through progress, what measures are in place, etc. And housing, as you would expect, is one of those. There are 6 areas where we have these regular stocktakes, and housing is one of them. So the Deputy Prime Minister and her team come into number 10. We have a session where we go through a number of different issues, but decent standards and housing and enforceability is among them.
Okay. You'll recall last time we met, Prime Minister, I asked you about the government's decision to freeze the local housing allowance. And coming back to the issue around child poverty, this is an area which is keeping many children and their families in poverty because they cannot afford the rent. The recent data from the local government association responsible for all councils shows that there's a funding gap of around £7 million over the last 5 years. This is a key area pushing many people more into poverty. So I asked you again, Prime Minister, do you think that was the right decision from a government that's ambitious on tackling child poverty?
Look, I think I defend the decisions we've made. Obviously, we head into the autumn. We will get to another budget, and there'll be a chance to look again across the board. But we certainly made the right decision first time around. I think I'd also emphasise something I touched on last time, which is, in the end, with housing, we need to build and make available more housing across the board. There simply isn't enough, and that
But
means
the starts, Prime Minister, you may have seen are quite low. Not building those houses quickly enough, and we will see more people and more children in poverty. We can't build our way out of this crisis. So in the interim, what more can the government do to help alleviate that poverty?
Well,
that
as I say, there'll be a child poverty strategy which we're setting out in the autumn. We will go into the budget in the autumn as well, and alleviating poverty is a priority of mine. I do think that we need to build more, though, and we have to build more because we've had a problem for many years of not building enough social and affordable housing in this country. And until we crack that problem, we will never be able to get to the fundamental roots of the failures here, and that's why, on that issue in particular, I'm pressing the Deputy Prime Minister very hard.
Prime Minister, on that though, when homes are built in expensive parts of the country, it's very hard for social landlords to afford to buy them at the rate they would need to pay, make sure that the rents are truly affordable rents. So is there anything that on your radar about how you're going to ensure that not just the supply of housing, but the supply of really properly affordable social housing is...
Yeah, that's why we've made a commitment within the building commitment for social and affordable housing and put down £39 billion, which is the biggest amount.
Over 10 years?
Put behind. Well, yes, but...
I'm just be clear.
Well, I appreciate that, but there is always the duty of government to deal with the here and now, of course, but also to deal with the mid and long term. And one of the big problems, in my view, of the last 14 years is nobody did the mid and long term. So we lived with the ever-decreasing cycle of failure and short-term sticking plaster, and I'm determined that we're going to cut through that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Well, there was the Prime Minister trying to answer some questions on housing, because not a lot of housing is being built at the moment. But if you want to follow the full Liaison Committee appearance by the Prime Minister, head over to gbnews.com and you can find GBN2, where the full, extensive question and answer session is being streamed for you live.
Yes, so there's the QR code for you on the screen. We'll leave it up there for a few more seconds if you want to dash find your phone and get it. Otherwise, you can head to our YouTube channel as well. So do that if you are interested. But we're going to move on because new polling suggests Angela Rayner's plan to introduce an official definition of Islamophobia could cost the Labour Party more than 1 million votes, which would hand Reform UK a 100-seat majority at the next election.
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister has appointed a panel to draw up the definition across the public sector, despite warnings it could stop politicians speaking up on all sorts of issues, including grooming gangs. OK, well, joining us now is cultural historian Philip Kisley. Philip, this definition of Islamophobia is proving rather difficult to come up with. Why is that?
Well, I don't think we should be dealing with the word Islamophobia in the first place. OK, the word Islamophobia comes from the Muslim Brotherhood, and it was popularised in the UK by the Runnymede Trust. I don't think we should be dealing with those terms at all. So that is the first fundamental problem for me. OK, but the reports today, all of the press today, were saying that this is a great big shock and that Nigel Farage is going to receive 100 votes. It's not a shock at all. It's completely inevitable, because the last thing people need is, or the last thing that people want, is a de facto blasphemy law, and a law that equates religion with race, that really does shut people down, and that is an attack on democracy. So I think all of those things, this is, singling out one religion, the religion that actually is the only religion in this country that is connected with terrorism, that terrorism is actually committed in the name of this religion, and it is removing it from criticism. I think it's extremely worrying. People are extremely worried by it, and of course they will turn to politicians and parties that will push against it.
You could argue that there are sort of people who would claim to be Christian that commit acts of terrorism as well, that Catholicism for a long time was associated with terrorism. Although I suppose the counter-argument to that is, of course, we never needed a definition for anti-Catholic bias. We don't have a definition for anti-Christian bias or anti-Hindu bias or anti-Scientologist bias or anti-Mormon bias. We just don't do... Why single out Islam to have some sort of special protection?
Yeah, again, I mean, you could only think that there is a lobby going on here, and there is something happening within the Labour Party, and it's almost as though they're choosing a particular voting base. Okay, it's almost as though they're choosing the Muslim voting base, and by definition, they are pushing away their traditional working class voting base, because it is the working class, obviously, in the red wall seats who are really pushing back against this, and who would take 100 seats away from them. So it's a very clear choice here. They are looking to the future. This is very definite. They're doing something very specific. They are privileging the Muslim vote over the working class.
Philip, some people would push back and say, well, we've got a definition of anti-Semitism, so why can't we have a definition of Islamophobia? What's the difference there?
I think there's a real difference here, and I'm actually wearing this pin at the moment, which is about the hostages still being held in Gaza. I think we've seen a rise over the last few years, and specifically over the last few weeks, of massive anti-Semitism across the institutions. And you have to look at which communities are particularly anti-Semitic in this country. And bearing in mind what was happening on the streets of London on Saturday, where they were calling for the death of the Jewish state in the name of pro-Palestinian protest, I think we know the answer to that. So Jews are extremely vulnerable, and I've got very many close Jewish friends who are frightened of going out on the streets on Saturdays.
But is it because to be a Jew is an ethnicity rather than just a belief system? Philip, is that the fundamental difference that's why you can define it in such a way?
No, Judaism is an ethno-religion. It is actually an ethno-religion, whereas Islam is just a religion. It's an ideology.
Yes, so there's a difference there.
So the difference there is, but I think it's you know,
one of the interesting things, Philip, for me, is that you can be an atheist Jew.
Exactly.
But you can't be an atheist Muslim. I mean, atheist Muslims are called ex-Muslims. They're not Muslims. Whereas there are lots of atheist Jews. There are lots of people who have the culture, who have the history, who have the family. There are people, but they don't necessarily believe in everything in the Torah. I suppose for me that is a really instructive way to look at it.
I think it is, and I think we can also just be very direct and very clear here and say how many Jews are on Prevent's watch lists, and I would suggest it's pretty much none. Okay, I would suggest who you know, which ethnicity, which religion is really vulnerable in this country. I would very definitely say it's Jews, because they're not, you know, the protesters aren't even using the word Zionism now. They're using Jewish.
But we have, Philip, we have seen a rise in the term that we would prefer, anti-Muslim hatred, in terms of the experience of Muslims on our streets, as we've seen a rise in the uptick of anti-Semitic attacks. So in terms of addressing that, you would argue that a definition is not helpful, or is anti-Muslim hatred the preferred?
No, I don't think a definition is helpful, and I don't really think you can compare the two. If there is anti-Muslim hatred going on in the streets of this country, it isn't anywhere near the same level as anti-Semitic hatred. And let me be clear about this. And any kind of hatred, any kind of anti-this or anti-that hatred is completely unacceptable. But I think what we need, rather than closing down the debate, okay, and we know what the problems are there with Pakistani heritage rape gangs, etc. Anybody who wanted to criticise those people were terrified of doing so because they were thought to be, they were frightened of being called racist. I'm thinking about Salman Abedi, the man who detonated a bomb full of nuts and bolts in 2017 in Manchester, where I'm from, actually. Okay, the security guard there was terrified of saying anything because he was frightened of being racist. So let's open up the debate. Let's stop all of this nonsense about blasphemy, because that's what it comes down to. Let's say there are some people in this country, terrorists and rapists and God knows what. Let's deal with them. It doesn't matter where they come from. Let's deal with them, and let's not shut down the debate.
OK, well, Philip Kisley, cultural historian, thanks indeed for joining us.
OK, well, if you want to travel abroad, here's the weather forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there. It's hot and sunny across the vast majority of the Mediterranean at the moment. 1 or 2 showers in the north and fairly breezy across the Canary Islands and also Madeira. This northeasterly wind is bringing in a bit more in the way of cloud as well. Hot and sunny though for Iberia, most of Italy as well. Just 1 or 2 showers up towards Croatia and Slovenia. But for Greece and Turkey, hot and sunny, temperatures into the mid-30s. So do remember that sunscreen. And as we go through the next few days, it stays very similar.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around, a nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 3. Now, GPs are going to prescribe depression sufferers with free tickets to watch football. It's an interesting proposition, but let's discuss it with the sports writer and journalist Harry Harris. Harry, an interesting proposition.
Oh, well, it's always good to have a good laugh on a Monday. Well, I tell you what, there's nothing more depressing than a football fan when his team loses. So
yes,
let's hope they send him to a winning team.
Well, yes, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it may not actually lift your mood very much, Harry.
No, I think the one thing that kills football fans is hope. You hope all season and then your team lets you down, and that's a summer of depression for you till the start of next season. So
but at least when you're down with all of your compatriots, right? There's a sense of community spirit, whether you're on your way up or on your way down. Perhaps one of the things about depression is just the sheer loneliness of it all. So being around other people, even if you're all feeling miffed, that's a feeling shared.
I quite agree, but why do you need to do it in the stands of a football club? Why don't you just do it in a community hall? Why don't they have a new community to get the people together and to not be lonely? But there's nothing more lonely than being in a stand if you haven't got any friends.
Harry, what have you got against depressed people coming to football matches? Are you worried it will bring the mood down? Is that what this is about, Harry?
No, I'm hoping it's going to help out all those Arsenal fans that keep on finishing second.
Oh, very good. But I mean, this is a proposition that some football grounds are going to be giving away free seats to people who are having a hard time of it. No harm in that, surely.
Well, you would think not. But I can only see this happening at one club, and that was it's happening at Forest Green.
Yeah.
I should imagine they can't sell their tickets. Nothing more depressing than losing a playoff, and they lost the playoff, of course. No, I find it very amusing. It just strikes me about people who own football clubs, buy football clubs, and know nothing about football.
Well, Harry Harris, thank you very much. Some realism injected into the conversation there. Football writer Harry Harris, always great to speak to you. I believe it is now the end of the show, so it's time to speak to Martin.
Hello guys, cracking show as ever. Try being a Nottingham Forest fan. That's not especially happy these days, I digress. Let's send paedophiles on the El Salvador Express. Ship them out abroad. What's not to like about that? Greece is threatened to jail all illegal immigrants. Why can't we do the same there in the ECHR and the European Union? Bournemouth, the asylum crime capital of Britain. I'll speak to a resident. Plus, let's also talk about how Brexit was fixed. They tried to get 1 million extra voters to vote against leave. It failed. That's all coming in 3 till 6. But first, here's your weather forecast.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office.